it is so hard to go through life thinking you're a lazy piece of shit. And I went through life for so long thinking I am just lazy. I just can't do things. I don't know why. And I just, yeah, you feel useless. And I don't feel useless anymore. And I found a lot of my other mental health issues were stemming from not being able to do things and feeling like a useless failure who's extremely lazy. But yeah, just getting help, even if it's not meds, getting help from someone to at least kind of unravel the thoughts and see what's going on really helps.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Sweet Talking Podcast with me, your host, Nepherti. This is episode 52. This is episode 52 of season 5 of the Sweet Talking Podcast. I really do appreciate you all who are tuning in live, and those of you who may be watching this on YouTube right now. Thank you so much for your support. I really, really do appreciate that very, very much. Before we get started, I would like to thank my supporters on Patreon. They are the ones who allow me to monetize the content that I'm doing on YouTube, since practically all of it is blocked by copyright infringements because of the music that I play. So I really do appreciate any and all support through my Patreon. And before we get started, I will be showing you guys just a small little teaser, a small little promo that you will be able to tune into for just a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes rather, a 3-minute thing. So just sit tight. We'll be into the podcast right after this. Hey there, this is me, Nepherti here, and I am making a video about my Patreon that many of you may or may not know about. YouTube is still hitting me with copyright infringements. Obviously, I want to have music on my videos on YouTube, so they continue to hit me with copyright infringements. I am now affiliate on Twitch, so I do get support on Twitch now, so that has changed. But at the end of the day, Patreon still gives a larger cut. So at the end of the day, I want to just reinform you guys, many of you who may or may not know, you can take a look at my Patreon right now actually, at patreon.com/Nepherti. It'll be right at the bottom underneath my boobs. And basically it's a great way for you to support me aside from, Twitch. And that's pretty much all. Patreon is a great way for you to support me in a more direct way, and also allows me to directly give back to you guys. I do give updates relatively regularly. So if joining me on the Patreon is something that you're interested in, you can do so starting for just $1. There are tiers in which I get to spend an hour with you one-on-one. It could be either on Discord or in VRChat. Whichever one you'd want, that's what we do. And I also do voice recordings also. There's the head pet tier, which is $1, the nuzzle tier, which is $5, the huggle tier, which is $10, the snunkle tier, which is for $20, and the uwu tier, which is for $30. So honestly, I didn't want to spend too much time on this video. I'm just kind of here, just being comfortable, whatever, but I just wanted to thank everyone who has already been a part of the Patreon up to this point. I truly want to give you my thanks for supporting me and allowing me to do what I do and, live in this nice cozy room, largely free of most noise, and just be able to create things that I really, really enjoy creating. And so I'm so grateful to everyone who has been a part of my Patreon up to this point, and I hope that anyone who is interested in more tangibly supporting me, this is a great way to do it. I'm looking to revamp Distortio, or DTX for short, and I'm also looking to do a little bit of other content. So I really am looking forward to the future. I'm so excited about what we're doing, and I look forward to what we can create together. See you next time. I see, that wasn't so bad. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate that. All right, so thank you for being here. I hope you're looking forward to tonight's conversation. Tonight's guest is self-proclaimed shader goblin and creator of the VRChat World Moon Pool, among other things. My guest tonight is Apple Blossom. So I certainly hope that that you guys will enjoy tonight's conversation with my lovely guest, and we'll go ahead and jump into things with a little bit of an icebreaker. I like to kind of start things off very, very kind of chill, and just kind of, before we jump into like the hard-hitting questions, not that they'll be too hard-hitting, but before we jump into the questioning, we'll say. But yeah, we met. It was it was mid-December that we met, and I believe it was Night Under Lights. I believe it was, and there were a number of people playing that night. I think Ariel was playing. I think Turk did a set at the very end of that. But I think it was like the last Night Under Lights of last year that I approached you finally after observing you for like a good bit of time. I mean, I knew who you were. But I was like, oh, I don't want to bother her, and she's, very important person, yeah. And I'm just
No.
so yeah, I finally worked up the courage while streaming, no less. I was streaming when I approached you actually. So yeah, I'm glad that we could have a conversation. You talked to me a little bit about what goes into Moonpool, and I know you're a very technical person, and I thought that it would be really, really cool to chat with you. Just out of curiosity, what was your first impression, if you remember? What was your first impression of me when I approached you, if you remember?
I'm sorry, I actually.
If you don't remember, it's fine.
Every time Turk plays at Moonpool, I feel so bad. I fall asleep. The music is so good. The vibes are amazing. It's so nice there, and then I clonk out. I remember like half of it. So I did not know you were streaming. I don't think. Did I?
No, I didn't say anything.
So.
Yeah, I had the camera away from us. The camera was like over our like far away, so you and I were just kind of talking. So it wasn't like front and center like we are right now. So yeah.
Yeah. Either way, it's fine. It's just entertaining because I did not know. But yeah. I mean, you seem like a chill person. I do remember second impression. Running into you at Ariel's was it Deep Dive?
Yes, it was Deep Dive, yeah.
And you seem very chill there and mildly intimidating. So
oh my god.
took a minute to build the courage to approach, and you're like, "Oh, this is an important person." I'm like, "How? Why? Oh, sure." I don't see it, but I keep hearing it.
Well, yeah, don't worry. You keep hearing about you're a very important person. I keep hearing that I'm mildly or very intimidating, so I don't mean to be. I mean, I guess I'm just very, I guess the confidence kind of somewhat puts people off, I guess, if I had to really kind of put a finger on it. I don't really know because no one really tells me, but I try to be very approachable. And I try to give people the courage to be able to, approach me with whatever. But, I'm glad that we had a chance to hang out at Deep Dive. It was a good time. I had a great time there. It was great to chat with you there, too. So, yeah.
It was nice. I was really high at the time. So, it was definitely just, like, breaking down a few walls, which I kind of have with everybody, but, like, yeah. Nervous little thing. So it's nice to just be able to relax and
trust. Yeah, I feel that. I was drinking. I was doing a little bit of drinking myself that night too. So we were all just having a good time. It was great. It was a good time. So yeah. But let's go ahead and jump into, I guess, the beginner stuff, the very easygoing stuff, I would say. So if you could describe yourself to someone who doesn't know who you are, how would you describe yourself as Apple_Blossom? How would you describe yourself to that person? Like, who is she?
Well, she's Shader Goblin, the big chaotic Shader Goblin. I've been programming for like 16 years now, long time, and it's like the way I what's the word, kind of express, I'm not sure if expression is the right word, sorry. The shaders, coding, fun. I like coding. I'm a little chaotic. I'm a little all over the place because brain funky, but I have a good time, and I try and be very relaxed and just vibe. So, like, and I'm good at coding, but like saying you're good at coding gives the image of like stuffy. So code goblin. And I've been doing shaders for the last year, so we've evolved to shader goblin.
Okay. So you've been evolving your skills, as you've been, learning new things and trying to just build on what you know and improve on what you know and make it better. So that's cool. So the broad spectrum of who you are, like if someone didn't know who you are and you met them, I guess in VR chat, I would say, that's who you would say that would be. Shader goblin, coder, world creator, pretty much?
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Is there other things I do? Not really. I'm playing Rivals. That's about it. And I'm like pretty gay. That's up there too.
Okay. Same actually. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That works.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey. But yeah. Awesome. Okay. Nice. So, how did you come up with the name Apple Blossom, or why did you choose that particular name? Does it have any history? What went into that?
One of my favorite questions, because so I, as a child, was obsessed with apples, like the fruit, not the company. I don't like the company. But the fruit.
Fair.
Very, very good apples. And so when I was very young and trying to find a username when I could still like barely read, I was like, oh, I like apples. I'm gonna put apple in the box, and it was taken. So I was going by Apple Lover for a long time, but did not like the vibe of that as much, and so eventually tried out a few different names and stuck on Blossom, and Blossom is cute. It's a cute name, and it kind of feels like the more feminine form of what I was going as before, but my development, like learning coding, started on Roblox, and on Roblox I've got the account name @Apple, which is my biggest flex in the world. And oh boy, wow, Roblox, sometimes, kind of. But yeah, lots of history going back there of me just eating obscene amounts of apples, industrial quantities. Yeah.
Okay. So it's very much connected to your affection for the fruit. You just are very much a fruit lover. Okay. I mean, honestly, I think it's the simpler the name, the more iconic it ends up being. I think that's why Apple, the company, took the name Apple. I think, the easier it is and the more associative it is with people, I think the more kind of ubiquitous it becomes when it comes to people like remembering, either the brand or the person or, whatever. So I think that's good. And, I agree. I'm a big fan of cherry blossoms myself. So, I'm a fan. I like how you kind of put those two together. It's nice. And like the underscore, is that just for the sake of like naming conventions, or does that have any meaning itself?
Python at the time. Python uses I think it's called snake case, where you instead of doing because in programming spaces can't be used inside of like variable names usually, so you have to separate the words somehow. Most languages use like an uppercase letter to start the next word, and in Python, special little thing, they use underscores to separate things, which also translates to Godot's now, which hurts me to type because underscore is an awkward thing to hit. But I like the aesthetic. I type in all lowercase. I like the vibe. So yeah, it just fits.
All right. Cool. Yeah, that works for me. All right. So
Also,
yeah.
Apple the company can suck it because I've got the Roblox username, which means that they had to get the Apple Inc. username when they did their collab way back when, and get fucked.
All right. Yeah, hell yeah. That is a pretty major flex. Hell yeah. Okay. So So when it comes to your avatar, like your overall look and feel in VR chat, how did you kind of land on this particular look? Because it's very simple. It's there's no like major bells and whistles. It's just like an very kind of, I guess, ordinary looking humanoid, but very pleasant to look at. Very pretty. But how did you kind of like land on that?
So when I first got into VRChat, I was actually spending a lot of time running around avatar worlds trying to find something I actually liked. And my problem was that VRChat is having the same thing that a lot of platforms have, where there's like an arms race for body proportions. And I keep seeing all the hips expand and like the muscles grow, and I'm like, I'm here for it. Bless their little hearts. I don't like it. On me personally.
Yeah.
Like, I could appreciate some very ultra wide hips, but if it doesn't match my like proportions in real life, my phantom touch, it goes away a little bit. And oh boy, do I like my phantom touch. So I've been slowly drifting my avatar more towards what I actually look like, kind of. It's like me if I was like 30% hotter. But yeah, I'm going around a lot of these worlds, and finally I find one that's wearing this like big comfy sweater. It was like this Christmas version of this avatar, and I was like, this is the vibe. It's comfy, it's cute, and I loved it, and I wore it for like 2 years straight. But as I got more into like shaders and doing avatar commissions and learning more about like lighting and materials, I realized that I kind of wanted to do more realistic lighting. And the problem was that that avatar and the Kikyo I was on, both of them have the like booth flat face, no normals, and so the nose gets like crunched. But if you remove those, like you remove the custom split normals in Blender, you get like these. You see why they're not designed for this. And so looking around different booth models, and Adidas, AXDXUS, who's in chat, hello, he recommended Shinra, which is this one. And Shinra has the like face normals, like I got a nose, you could see it on the lighting, big happy. And it's not super flashy, but there are a lot of little details, which is what I like. Although I am making a flashier version for raves, because I've started to hang out around that crowd again. And I want a little bit of immersive, so I'm not just like blending into the darkness. But even though it's not super flashy, I've got subsurface scattering with thickness bakes. I've got tattoos with normals. I've got little tiny skin normals that you can only see when you're like really close to it. I've got custom color gradients for the lighting, and like custom skin loots. Lots of little tiny things, and I really like the little tiny things. The hair has like anisotropics. You could see the like shimmer move around instead of just being like painted on, but also not be so overblown, so it only really shows up when the lighting is actually hitting it. And it's the same thing with the subsurface scattering. You see it if I put my hand up to a light. You don't see it otherwise. So lots of little things I really like. And I'm big comfy. I love big comfy. I always wear big comfy. Gotta be a big comfy. It's actually the default outfit she comes with, but I really like it because it's just like big t-shirt, cute vibes.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think comfy is pretty underrated. I think it's important to be comfortable, and it makes sense when you're a coder. I think when you're doing the coding stuff, you do want to be relatively comfortable, and it's kind of nothing too flashy. Just like you wear what you need to wear to be comfortable and do your thing. So I can feel that. Yeah, it's good.
I met someone through this platform in real life and had to warn them that I dress like a coder. Don't think they expected me to show up in Crocs, but I sure did. Because it's comfy.
All right.
Stay comfy.
You would never catch me in Crocs, but to each their own. Honestly.
They're comfy. They're so nice. I didn't think I would either. Modular Monday and Shaggy, they memed me into it, and now I wear them all the time. And I've got a winter pair that's got like fur line, but it's still got the little strap on the back, so my heels get cold, but everything else is fine. I love them. They're so nice.
All right. Well, maybe one day I'll have to try them. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. But
You can get the ones with heels. It'll kind of be a good mix.
yeah, that will be the ones that I would have to try. Yeah, the one a little bit of height is good because I'm fairly short, IRL. So yeah.
Wait, how tall?
5'5".
Ah, small.
Oh please, yeah, a little bit, yeah. Well, I mean, I always say I don't have to be tall because I have a big personality, So it makes up for it.
Microscopic.
Oh my gosh. Oh wait, because you don't have to have a big personality because you're tall.
Yeah. I'm just vibing.
Okay. How tall?
6'1". Real inches, not dude inches.
That's awesome. I like that. All right. I like tall people. I'm a fan. Yeah. But
see, I'm compensating in this platform because I like looking up at people. It's fun. In a gay way.
I believe it.
I get to do it often.
I've noticed that. I actually have noticed that. Like, I think a lot of tall people prefer to be smaller sizes in VR, but I don't see like smaller people wanting to be like super big or tall. Like, I'm very happy just being my normal height in VR, honestly. But I have noticed that a lot of tall people like to be a little bit tinier.
I do see some people doing the like inverse. I think a lot of people like will take avatars that kind of like they're kind of playing their opposites just to. I mean, it's fun, honestly. Like, it's a different perspective. But all of my friends are shorter than me in real life, like all of them. So it's very different, and it's very fun. Plus you get to be small and cute, and some people, they don't get to experience being small and cute. They're not built different like me, who just kind of curls up into a ball, and then same vibe. But yeah, it's interesting. I have seen people who are short do very tall, but I was also kind of touching on that with like the muscle arms race. There's definitely like some interesting psychological phenomena happening there, I think.
Oh yeah.
I wish I could just open all their brains up and see why they want the muscles to be so rippling.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I think it's definitely like a compensation for sure. I think, or maybe not really a compensation, but more so like if I could achieve this, I would. I like to think, like, obviously we can't change our height, but we can usually change our build to some degree. So I think, there is something like maybe psychologically going on, like, oh, I can't be this built for whatever reason, but I can look like this in VR at least. So I think a lot of like people who try to like be that kind of person in VR have that identity in VR. I think it's very, very common in this space. Yeah. Being their ideal self.
To be fair, the ones I'm talking about, no one could be that. No one.
Oh, like the e-boy level?
Fun to be had there. Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely talking about like the dance scene, the strip clubs. Those avatars. Like I get it. Don't get me wrong. I like it, but it's like, wow. I don't know how you connect to that, honestly. I don't know how you connect to something that's like
beyond ideal.
Yeah, but like I get the appeal for sure. Yeah.
I mean, they're honestly
dudes, but
Yeah. Like there are plenty of like the way girl avatars are designed are very much like beyond ideal too. The physics, the size, proportions. I think it kind of goes both ways. So everyone wants to be their ideal, I guess. So, everyone wants to look hot. Everyone is hot in VR chat, so, it kind of goes without saying. So,
Yeah, I'm not complaining about the women because I like looking at them and I don't want them to stop. I also don't want the e-boys to stop. I just am interested in what causes the mentality to want it.
True.
Like, there's some point where we're just at the point where this dude's torso is literal triangle, triangle, and I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. I think the furry community is also like 5 steps ahead of that, even further. Very interesting and wild forms of expression, and I do appreciate it, honestly. So many different ways of being. It's interesting.
I agree. Humans are pretty interesting, and just with how the internet has evolved and like how we get access to so many different ways of thinking and perspectives, it just opens up a whole bunch of possibilities for a lot of people to think differently and to express themselves differently and to have access to technology to create in those ways, like similar to like what you have done. So, but before, like, we were talking about VR chat, so let's keep talking about, like, keep on that track of VR chat. Like, how did you hear about VR chat? Like, how did you discover VR chat, and why did you end up taking part?
So I've been doing game dev for a really long time, and VR always really interested me. But by the time it was even a little bit accessible, like I bought a CV1 way back when there were like 5 games for it at the time. There's like nothing. So I was pretty ear to the ground on what was coming out, but VRChat, my exposure to it back then was Ugandan Knuckles. And that seemed really not the vibe. But pandemic hit. I'm sure you've heard this story before.
Sure.
I was lonely and I wanted social connections, so download VRChat. Spend a lot of time running around looking for those avatars and being too anxious to talk to people until I find the perfect one. And yeah, kind of stemmed from there. That's how I found out about it. Just like in the VR circles, the news spreads a little.
Okay. And just for those who aren't familiar, I'm actually not familiar myself. Like, what is CV1? What was that?
Oh, sorry. The Oculus Rift, they had, I might get this history wrong, but there were 2 dev kits that came out, and these were like, oh, here's a piece of hardware for developers to experiment with. You can like make really simple. I think Unity was one of the first engines to have like a proper integration. So a lot of like, oh, here's an empty box with like a column in the center, and there's a little rotating object in the center, and just that alone would get people so hyped they'd pay $10 for it. But the I think it's the CV1. It's the like first consumer edition. Like, this isn't made just for devs, but it's also for people who just want to actually buy it and use it. And so I got the first like consumer grade Oculus Rifts, and it was terrible, and it was amazing at the same time. And VR is still there somehow, terrible and amazing. And so that's CV1.
Okay. Nice. So you got on the ground floor of the VR craze, basically.
Yeah, but my perspective was always like, this is something I want to make games for. Although I wasn't very good at it at the time, and still learning, but we all are. Yeah, it's interesting. The tools back then were terrible. Like, genuinely, oh, you had to code every single thing yourself. It's very, what's the word? Hard to get into.
Okay. Yeah, I would imagine like very early technologies they're early technologies because they're meant for developers mainly. So it's meant to be difficult for a lot of people to get into until they're made for more, just the average consumer. That everything kind of starts off with that. I mean, AI started off that way. It was something that was only really accessible to developers, and now with ChatGPT and Gemini and Grok and all other different kinds of like platforms utilizing such things. It's becoming more accessible for people, and more people are learning what that really entails and what the possibilities that involved in that. So I think that's pretty normal, but that's cool. That's really cool to hear about. So with VRChat, I know you said you're coming into VRChat because you're looking for just people to spend time with, that human connection. So like, what was it that let you stay? You popped into it the first time, you ran into the memes, and you're like, yeah, this isn't it for me. And then pandemic hit, you came back. Now, what made you stick around after 2020?
I did end up making some friends, and this was 2021, but I saw that it was in Unity Engine. I knew Unity Engine. I used to have a job doing Unity development, so it was something that I had already had experience working on. And the big thing that actually got me in was really early on. I met a 3D modeler, and I didn't know how to do 3D modeling at the time at all. So having someone who wanted to collaborate on a little project was a big good. And so this person, I don't know if they're still around. Their name was Miss Lacane, a little cat avatar. A very, very sweet person, and I feel bad for the way the project died, but it just died. Anyway, I wanted to build a little casino that was just the based on this little game I played as a kid, a casino foil or something. Anyway, I built a little slot machine. It was really terrible, but it worked. You hit a little button, 3 spinners would move, and then it would make a little sound if you won. And having that in VR, making something, anything, terrible things, doesn't matter. Making a thing, putting it in VR, and physically seeing it in front of you is genuinely a magical experience in a way that game dev had not been for me at the time. And still, honestly, still isn't really. It's such a wild experience because it really feels like it's in front of you and you just built it. And so that kind of really started the kick, on top of the making friends and finding people to drink with at the time. Yeah.
All right. You said that VR is both wonderful and terrible at the same time. What does that actually mean? Can you go into more detail about that?
100% talking about a technical level. I love VR. I love being able to field it and be in a place and try out different forms of expression. And I didn't mean to make fun of anybody except for my friend Yogi on that one, but it's magical. But the technology kind of sucks, actually. There's 50 different frameworks. You're connecting 5 different daisy chains of programs together to make anything work, and if any of those fails, all the rest of them fail spectacularly. Right now I'm connected through a phone processor in a headset with a bunch of cameras on it, and that's processing spatial data that's going through this other program, Virtual Desktop. It's being sent to my computer. Virtual Desktop is then taking it in with 3 other programs that are running my trackers, and then that goes through all of their random intermediary processes and drivers and things, and finally it all goes into Unity Engine, where it happens again a 4th time after it goes through Steam VR and the overlays and everything else. And there's so many little tiny applications that are all kind of mid, and together, any of them failing, and Steam VR is just well, we're done now, closing out the program, and it dies. And it's frustrating because of the potential that I'm seeing. I see so much potential on the platform, and it is so bogged down by just the way the technology has been set up. It's just big daisy chains, and so there's been progress toward getting that better, the OpenXR framework, very, very good, to have things be open source. Love open source. and to like actually unify. Because what open source does is it lets everyone use the same thing, and when everyone's using the same thing, it works with that thing. So it was, if I had that back when I first started trying to develop, it would have been a lot easier. But yeah, VR is jank, it's a mess, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get into, like how did you get into, I guess, game dev, and I guess, how is game dev different from, I guess, distinctly different from VR development, would you say? But let's start with, like, how did you get into game dev to begin with, and why was that an interest for you?
So I was around 8 or 10. My my father's a programmer, and had this like learn C# in 21 days book, and me and my brother were like going through trying to like make that happen because it seemed fun to make the computer do things. We had been playing, we had like had our little family computer, and we just wanted to see what it would do. We were very bored in the middle of nowhere being homeschooled, and really just had nothing to do all day, so whatever it could latch on to. So I was bad at that, like really apocalyptically bad, just as everyone else starting on new skills is. But it didn't really start clicking for me until I started playing and making scripts on Roblox, actually. I was 10 or so, and I started making little terrible Roblox scripts, just like, oh, here's a brick, and when you hit the brick, it changes colors. And that took me like 3 days. It was terrible, but it totally worked, and I was so excited, because the thing about game dev that I love is you do a thing, and then you see that thing, and whatever you tell it to do, it does. And a lot of other coding is like, you get stuck in the shit. You get stuck in the frameworks, you get stuck in the like boilerplate, but with like scripting languages, you type in one line and then the thing happens and then it's done. And it's so approachable. So it's very fun. And yeah, kind of stemmed off from there. Kept making more and more things, got better and better at programming, learned new things, but graphics programming has really taken it up to 11 for me, and being able to like really make ideas happen.
And so, I guess, was it just familial, like, because like you said your father was a programmer? I guess, how did you avoid getting discouraged by it? Was it just an innate curiosity and just something that you ended up sticking with over time? Like, did you ever get discouraged by, all the possibilities from it and try something different?
I hated it. I hated it so much. I hated it so much as a kid. I did not understand it. I was still learning how to read at the time, like read. I had undiagnosed ADHD and like just struggling to focus on anything, and it wasn't making sense to me, and I was like sitting there crying, staring at it, trying to figure out why it wasn't working. And so many times, even now, I still have times where I'm just like, this is terrible and I'm bad at this, and why am I doing this? But programming is like 90%, I don't know why this isn't working, it's terrible and I hate it. And then there's a little 10% sliver where it finally starts actually working and you're still making things. And during that sliver is more dopamine rush than I've gotten out of basically anything else. Like, just creation. Just telling the computer to do the thing and then it does the thing. And you could so much with that. Possibilities are genuinely endless.
Yeah, I think there really is something about like a satisfaction of just logic. Like I wanted to get into programming. I won't go too deeply into this, but I had an interest in programming, like very loosely speaking, because I wanted to make things. I just wanted to be creative in that way, and I thought it was very, very cool to be able to do that sort of thing. But I could never really wrap my head around. It was mostly website design. It was mostly like that sort of thing, like JavaScript, C++, that sort of thing. I really wanted to kind of, well, C sharp is more modern day, I would say, to this degree now. But I was really interested in that, but I couldn't really like wrap my head around it. So, like, the fact that you were able to like stick with it for so long and find like a reason to continue to keep doing it. You said that 10% of like, oh, I'm actually building something. It's actually coming together, and like how have you dealt with your, is like, you said it was undiagnosed ADHD that you had. Was it diagnosed? Has it been diagnosed?
At 25, I finally got it diagnosed, which was last year, which coincidentally is when I started actually finishing projects. Instead of just making 1 month prototypes over and over again forever. Yeah, finally actually figured out what's wrong with my head, fixed it, and now making things and doing things and having a working memory, which is really nice. Yeah, it's at the time was mostly just bouncing between things. ADHD is like you have this like laser focus and you can learn really, really quickly, but without meds and without treatment, your laser is shooting at random shit. It doesn't matter what you want to work on, what you have to work on. You could have someone pointed a gun to your head. It would not matter. You are doing something else. And sometimes that thing for me was like, I had a few months stint of like crocheting a lot of things, or learning baking, or like stuff that just did not have anything to do with anything I was supposed to actually be doing. So learning a lot of different skills and being unable to actually apply them to anything. So I was learning, doing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So what changed was, getting medication. And what was it? Was it like the understanding of it that really kind of like adjusted things for you, or was it the medication? Do you think that kind of allowed you to move forward on producing things at a greater rate?
Honestly, both. So ADHD is like your dopamine receptors don't work. You're not producing the happy chemicals. You're not receiving them. I can't remember which one it was. Don't quote me on this. I'm not a doctor. But you don't get dopamine from doing simple tasks or doing things you have to do, finishing anything. You have to make systems. You have to build like structures for yourself to be able to follow, and even then you're barely getting anything out of it. I had piles of to-do lists that I was just ignoring because I wasn't getting anything out of them, and I did not know for like 25 years of my life that other people actually like get mild satisfaction pings when they like clean something. I thought they just always hated doing that. I just thought they like did that because they had to, and there wasn't any kind of like little reward system. But now I have a reward system, and I like go clean a toilet, and then I'm like, I feel good about doing that. That is not a thing I had for most of my life. So it's like the meds create the reward system, or they like fix that reward system, and you start producing the dopamine when you do the good things, and you start being able to actually like keep your thoughts from being all over the place, but not really all over the place, just strung so fast together and jumping between so many topics because it's just zooming past in a way you can't control. But now I'm actually focused on what I'm doing. I'm actually seeing what's in front of me and what I need, and genuinely like both. You need both.
And as someone who has gone through this struggle, trying to stay focused and just trying to work through things without really quite understanding like the logic behind why you were not capable of getting things produced the way you want it to. How has your life changed? How has that been? How has your life become different? I guess in the year since then, than it has been before. Yeah, and how would you recommend someone to like deal with that? Maybe they have undiagnosed ADHD. Like, how would you suggest that they like, kind of deal with those sorts of struggles that you went through? Now that you kind of understand it
Well, if
logically.
anyone, yeah, if anyone has or feels like they have it, talk to a professional, uh, because the I was for a little bit of time, like jumping between like kind of self-medicating, because you with ADHD the thoughts are very chaotic and all over the place, and it's hard to not be thinking constantly. Not good thinking, not useful thinking, just thinking, just brain keep going. So understanding, well, trying to make that turn off led me down some dark paths, but the big thing is like go talk to a professional. Try to understand why you're having that kind of struggle. Try to understand where it's coming from, because if you know there's actually something there, you know there's actually a physical thing that is different in your brain that can be treated or managed, then you know you're not a lazy piece of shit. And it is so hard to go through life thinking you're a lazy piece of shit. And I went through life for so long thinking I am just lazy. I just can't do things, I don't know why, and I just, yeah, you feel useless. And I don't feel useless anymore. And I found a lot of my other mental health issues were stemming from not being able to do things and feeling like a useless failure who's extremely lazy. But yeah, just getting help, even if it's not meds, getting help from someone to at least kind of unravel the thoughts and see what's going on really helps.
Hmm. And you said that it had led you down some dark paths. You mind sharing a little bit of that if it's not too personal?
Yeah, so I describe a lot of these in terms of like the biochemistry, because otherwise I'm gonna connect to it again and feel sad. But um, so the brain produces dopamine in interesting circumstances. Of course, you've got your drugs and alcohol, the classics, but also there's this fun thing that happens when you feel pain. Your brain processes that pain signal. And then there's a second signal that it has to do when the pain stops being processed, and it releases a big rush of like endorphins. Like the big happy chemicals come through. And don't do this. But you sure can keep doing that and get the dopamine rush in situations where you literally can't get it otherwise. And then you end up getting a bunch of stitches and then ending up in the ward. But yeah, bad times. Not fun, not good. Um, wish I'd gotten help so much sooner. That's why I'm trying to tell other people to get help if they feel like they need it. Because God, not good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna wear that for the rest of my life. To wear my struggles on my sleeve now. And it just is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of people tend to have to go through these really dark times in order to really figure themselves out. It may not even be something that's, psychological. It could be just something in their life that they can't let go of. And they just have to learn through making mistakes and kind of, you know, deciding for themselves that I don't want to live like this anymore. So what was that moment for you when you realized that, drugs, alcohol, essentially, self-harm caused you to want to like get to that point where you wanted to improve yourself and seek help?
Um, it didn't. I never
Okay.
got to that point where I wanted to seek help. I got to the point where I had to. And not by choice. So, oh, there was another thing. Oh, the drugs. I still take. I haven't actually done hard drugs, but oh boy, have I smoked a lot of weed, and I still do. But like, not to get dopamine, but just because I enjoy it. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like,
Yeah.
there's a disconnect between like the use for survival and the use because you're actually having a good time. If you're not having a good time when you're taking it, I don't know. I not my wheelhouse, sorry. But the I got to the point not where I wanted to go get help because I was still trying to deal with it on my own because I thought I was just like a lazy bastard who needed to deal with it. But when I ended up in the hospital because I went a little too deep, went a little too hard, went a little too much, and then was in inpatient care. And once you're there, you are definitely happening. You're definitely doing recovery, even if you don't want to. And I did not want to. But that was like 4 years ago now.
Hmm.
Yeah, so being dragged there by an ambulance is how I ended up starting to get help.
Gotcha. And with all of that behind you, like I imagine like now, like even though you didn't deliberately want to get help, you're I'll assume that you're grateful that you did.
I want to go beat up my old self for not getting help sooner. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
go fighter. Because God, I don't. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to spend the rest of my life like being someone who's visibly had mental health issues because it's such an awkward conversation every time. But it's an important one. But like, God, I wish I could have just like gotten help. I wish I could have gotten help during college, especially. Like, undiagnosed ADHD and trying to write research papers, trying to like focus on classes that aren't my current like hyper fixation is extremely yeah. Failed English 201 like 5 times, and not because I'm bad at like writing, just because I can't physically do the thing. And I really wish I could somehow get a restart on that. Just like re-roll and actually try and get treatment before I fell apart. Would have been nice.
Right.
And maybe someone else in a similar situation might be the person I beat up instead.
Fair. And like so you said this happened around 3 years ago. So that would be 2022, which would be around the time that you were in VRChat, or that you were at least engaged in VRChat. Did those that like end up as an inpatient? Did that kind of make people wonder? Did people like ask questions? Did that kind of affect your experience in VRChat in any way?
Yeah, and honestly, they affected each other. Because VRChat, there's a lot of places that have like an awful drinking culture, and it's genuinely like, it's depressing to be around. I'll be honest. Because it's fun when you're out partying with friends and they're just having some drinks, but then you have the group that is just drinking. They're not there for music, they're not there to dance, they're not there to be with friends, they're there to have other people to drink with, and I was that person, and it's difficult. But the inpatient care was 4 years ago. It was around the time I was starting VRChat, but I don't think VRChat really affected that one too much because honestly I wasn't super into it at the time. But 3 years ago I ended up in rehab, and that one for sure affected by the accessibility of people to drink with, and like the encouragement to just keep going, more shots, more cheers over and over and over again. Every like 10 minutes you're downing another shot. It's wild. And yeah, I'm you'll catch me in the club telling people to drink water, and that's my way of trying to I don't know. It's hard to talk about without like, I don't want to attack people. I know they're struggling. We're all struggling at different rates and at different amounts. and I totally have been there. And I'm not like a lot of addiction is like secondary to other problems that just get exacerbated by the attempt at escapism, and there's a lot of escapism.
Yeah, that's that I would say that's like one of the biggest, issues with VR chat, I would say. But I think that's more of a cultural thing. People come here to get away from their issues IRL, and so because it's so easy just kind of be in VR and engage in these sorts of activities. It's very, very easy to lose sight of like, oh, how much have you drank? There's only the people in VR there to kind of like manage that, and if they're doing is saying cheers every 2 minutes, it's really hard to kind of deal with that sort of thing. And I know that was a very, like, I think that was pretty heavily noteworthy, like in 2022 2023. That kind of culture was very prevalent, I would say. That was around the time when I first started in VRChat also. So like I could definitely tell that it was very, 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 very popular to just be around those kinds of people in general. So it really comes down to the person, the individual, to be responsible, and also for the people that they're around to look out for them. We should, I think people in this day and age, I think there's been kind of a shift, at least a little bit, to kind of people to look after one another, and to not like just kind of like, obviously there's the cheers culture is still there, but I think people are more, I guess, aware of just people like going through the kind of stuff that actually is harmful to people. And I think there's people are more aware to be conscientious about like how much they're drinking and the people around them, I think.
Yeah.
Have you seen any changes?
100% agree. Yeah, it's definitely been like, it's definitely been a shift because I honestly, I think it is like seeing the effect it has on people in the community. Like you don't think about it in the time. Of course, you're just there vibing and having fun with friends, and you don't notice the one friend who has been drinking every single cheers because you just don't see it. You're focused on what you're up to, which is fine and good. And I'm not saying people should like. I'm not saying everyone should quit cold turkey or anything. Just like be mindful of your friends and where they're at, and like get them to drink water. And yeah, it's definitely gotten better, I think. But also, I still know that those clubs are out there, and that it's still happening. And sometimes they kind of bleed into spaces that I'm in, and I see it, and it's like, wow, I remember being that person, and God, I'm so glad I'm not that person right now. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to blame them. It's hard to try and address it without making it feel like you're attacking the person, and I think that's a big difficult as well. Yeah, messy. Lots of messy.
Yeah. Like, what do you think about the idea of escapism in VR chat? Do you think that that this is like the place to do it? Or do you think that people should seek after escapism? I guess what's your philosophy on the idea of escapism?
I think it really depends on what you're trying to escape from. It, like, mine was like trying to get out of my head that was broken, or to like try to wash down problems I was having. And that's definitely unhealthy, but there's also types of escapism that are like actually good and useful. There's ways of disconnecting from the self that are actually very like profound and powerful and inspiring. Like Ladybug, who we saw in the chat earlier, bless, did a meditation recently, and like genuinely profound impact. Like it was at Steph's birthday, and it was like dissolving the self, dissolving the body, and being like an amorphous blob of nothing. And it was like the most controlled escapism, or just like disassociation, but like in a comfy environment, in a way that really let me like zoom out and analyze where my life was at. And it kind of helped my anxiety a lot. Like, I zoom out and I see, oh, all of my experiences have been weighed down by the fact that I'm so in my head about this. And because I'm so in my head about it and constantly needing reassurance, I'm currently inside of a self-fulfilling prophecy where it is kind of hard to be around because I'm so anxious, and I'm so anxious because it's hard to be around, and I'm constantly looking for reassurance, and people keep reassuring me, but they obviously that's draining. They're not my therapist. So there's ways. And of course there's the self-expression, trying out different identities. It's just so many trans people, and here, self-included, probably because you can just try things. You don't have to like, sorry, it's a little off topic with the gender stuff, but like, when I was first trying out like a more feminine expression, I was running into this big wall where I hadn't started transitioning yet. I did not like the way I looked, and every single thing I was trying to do would always be in the context of this person who has not started yet. And so it's like, well, if you look like a dude and you put makeup on, you can look very beautiful, but if you're not good at the makeup, you will look like a dude with makeup. And if that's not what you want to look like, it's not gonna help a lot. But being able to go into VR and see an actual like representation of myself that I want to strive towards, and then being able to actually work towards that, and not just like, oh, this is like, oh, me if I put eyeliner on. No, it's me if I was on hormones for many years and really like went all in, which I ended up doing before VR, but God, I wish I had it at the time because it would have helped me understand so many feelings. So there's very good forms of escapism, and there's very bad forms of escapism, and it really just depends on what the person's running from or why they want to leave the self.
I agree. And, everyone's different. Everyone has different forms of pursuing that. And it seems like, you've had your share of doing so and exploring that in your own way, which is, I think it's healthy to want to do that to a degree, everything in moderation, of course. But yeah. So when it comes to, I guess, like, has VRChat helped at all with, I guess your pursuit of, I assuming that it has, the pursuit of your identity, and maybe even helping with your anxiety? Has VRChat been like either a help or a hindrance in any way too, in your pursuit of that?
It's definitely been a help. I mean, like, even simple things like I'm trying on tattoos that I kind of want. I'm like trying out more, trying out a bit more like adventurous outfits. Like, even besides trans stuff, there's so many things about like identity that can be explored in this space, and there's so many like comfy people to explore that with, and that has been really nice, and it's really helped my anxiety because like I'm not gonna go to a rave with like 80 people. I'm a little programmer who sits at home all day coding little toys out of shaders. And I've never even considered being in like a rave in real life, but like I'm in this space in VR. I'm with friends. I'm seeing that this is actually like, this kind of seems fun, and now I'm like, well, if I had a friend there, I would actually maybe try that, and that's no way would I've even considered it. So yeah, I think it does really help with trying to not having all of the human body problems, not having to deal with all of those really helps in being able to try new things.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so has VRChat, I guess, changed your life in any way? Has it significantly shifted the trajectory of your life in any shape or form?
Yeah, I'd say so for sure. I mean, the connections I've made with people and the um, different things I've worked on have definitely had a very large impact. Like, especially like last year, well, I don't even think I would have ended up doing like shader code at all, or like graphics programming. But this group Modular Monday, bless, rest in peace. They were just like a very improv little group, and I loved them. And that's where I met Turk and a bunch of other friends. And like without that group, I wouldn't have. Well, without that group and Get 'em Wet Shaggy yelling at me to learn VJing, I wouldn't have gotten into that. I wouldn't have started like doing live like VJ performances. I wouldn't have started like really breaking out of my shell, and then that ended up leading into graphics programming, which has been like such a good time. It's so much fun because it's so WYSIWYG. Like you write that this pixel is going to be this and the pixel is this, and it's so much fun, and it's zippy and it's very fun. And now I'm doing like avatar commissions and shader development full time. It's like what I do, and I don't think I'd be doing that. I don't know what I'd be doing otherwise. Probably some kind of weird game dev, but it's definitely changed the trajectory of my life, and mostly for the positive, especially like in the last year, because like got to do rain dance, got to have beautiful artists to do some wonderful things, and it made me I'm very proud of what I've been working on, and that's new, because I usually just end up having prototypes sit on a hard drive for forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did have the opportunity to at least see. I think it was at least one rain dance production that went on last year. That happened at Moonpool. I know there were a couple, but yeah, I had an opportunity to see at least one of them, and it's very, very beautiful, very, very beautiful stuff. And the kind of technology that's there is really impressive. And I've known for a long time that I would hope that I could get to a point where I could approach you and have a conversation with you, because again, what you've been doing, I've been observing what you've been doing for at least a year now. So it's very, very cool to see. So I'm glad that you were able to make yourself available tonight. Obviously, we have a lot more ground to cover. We're not nearly done, but I'm happy. I'm very grateful for that. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. So
I really appreciate that. I don't think about like I don't think about people like actually like following what I'm up to, because I'm still not used to it. But I feel like I'm still approachable. I feel like I was even more approachable back then. We had like the Q&A, and people were coming up and just asking me random stuff, and I was like yapping constantly about shader things. And God, Moonpool is such a wonderful, like the null seasons, that specifically like having Silent there turning the thing into like 3D objects in a way we did not design it for. But she totally just like sitting in there for like hours and hours trying to find how to make the thing look right. It's so inspiring, and I was very happy to see what they were up to in the world, because I didn't know it could do that. It's always the most fun part about making tools for artists, that you can never know how far they're gonna take it, and then they do, and then it blows your mind, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that.
Of course, yeah. Like it's kind of hard not to observe what you're doing when I wasn't. I was there to support many of the people who are DJs and VJs. So it was very easy to appreciate what was being done. Obviously, I was like, who made this world? And it was you. So I'm all right, cool. I wanted to definitely like look into more of what you're doing and be there and see what else is possible. So we'll get more into the moon pool stuff later on for sure. But I do want to continue with just the VR chat related stuff because I think it's really interesting, and it does paint a picture of like your own personal experiences in the space. What did you largely do when you first got into VR chat? What were you mainly doing? Was it just going to? You said you weren't really a club goer. So when you were drinking like a lot, like what were you largely doing in VR chat at that time?
So I wasn't in the like rave scene, which is like kind of where I've been hanging out more recently.
Mhm.
I was in the like really heavy like drinking games scene. This is like it's just, like groups that are like advertising that they're alcoholics, and
Okay.
that was the kind of group I was like hanging out in, and not that group, but like similar vibes. Doing that, doing the there was this one that was a lot of like there was a lot of horny group. I was in horny groups. I was in drinking groups, and I was God. What else was I up to? Mostly drinking, honestly. I was like events that are just like listen to music and drink, and you're not there for the music. So it was an experience. The problem was I was in a black cat talking to some friends, and then an e-boy came up to me and did the e-boy thing, and I wasn't ready for it. I I didn't think I'd been with like one dude ever at the time, and all of my other relationships were like all me being like dominant, and so it was a very different and wild experience. And 80% gay, by the way, not 100. But yeah, I fell for the b-boy shit. It hurts looking back, but God, it worked on me. And then I got yanked into like the strip scene, and then into the drinking scene, and yeah, that's what I was up to.
Wow, that is quite the change. It's quite the shift. But I do think that everyone's journey through VR chat goes through similar shifts. Like you hang out with a group of people, you spend time with them, maybe something in life changes, maybe your perception of VR chat changes, and then you end up going elsewhere and moving on to different people and spending your time elsewhere. I think that's normal. You know, I think that's what life is, and I think in a lot of ways VR chat mirrors life. And that's kind of the next thing that I want to get into, like what your perception of VR chat as a second life. Do you consider it as a second life, a second experience? Kind of maybe like a redo of perhaps, you know, things that you weren't able to have IRL that you can do here? Or is it just completely, you know, it's just one-to-one, it's just a thing that you do in your spare time? Like what was VR chat for you in that regard? Is it a second life for you?
God, that's a good question. Dang. I think at the until fairly recently, there were two very distinct like identities that were happening that were very separate from each other. Like, I think it's like an old internet person thing, because I've been on the internet for like ever.
Same.
And I saw the evolution of okay, you get me.
Yeah.
I saw the evolution of like people going from you don't share your birthday, you don't share your name, you don't share anything with anybody. If anyone ever finds out even a single tiny minute detail about you, you will die instantly. And so like growing up in that environment where it's like if you share your IP with anybody, you are going to get you're gonna get memed on. Going from that to a place where people just put their actual names on things is wild, and I feel like it's very much like a propagation of social media thing. But I've been realizing that I've been keeping them separate, but I've been doing all of my stuff in here. Like all of my work is here, or at least in the Unity engine. And so when I'm like attaching my names to when I'm attaching my names to things, my name, not names, but I'm attaching my name to things, and I put my username on there. And then I go to apply for a job later. I have to explain to them that this is my screen name, and my real name isn't on any of these, and I don't have credits on anything, and oh boy, my resume looks very sparse if I don't include all the projects I've been on. So I've been slowly merging them back together a little bit, but I do still keep it very... I still keep the real life stuff pretty private. Although it's not super difficult to figure out, but like I've started using my actual name with people, which has been really interesting, and it's kind of nice. It's nice. They're merging back together, and so it used to be like two separate lives, and now it's slowly becoming just me as a person. I've talked about this in a different context, but we don't fit in the wires. As long as we don't have like deep dive or the big spaceship, the Dyson sphere holding all the human consciousnesses, we still have to, at the end of the day, take the headset off. And so even if we're living a lot of life in VR, there is still the outside of VR, and I feel like you have to have a balance there. I feel like it's very important.
So what is one thing what is one thing that you really appreciate about VRChat, and one thing that you wish you could change or modify about VRChat?
I've got a big list of little technical details I would change, but like, platform or culturally, actually?
I would say more culturally speaking in this case. So like,
Okay.
what's one thing that you really appreciate about the platform, like about VRChat culturally, and what's one thing that you wish would change about VRChat culturally?
Alright. I really appreciate it's very accepting space, not just in like identities, which it is crazy accepting. It's really nice. Like I was stealth on here for a while and just like didn't tell people that I was trans, but I started to explicitly recently and keep mentioning it over and over again because I found out some of my friends didn't know, and I'd known them for like months, and I was like, you're missing a piece of my life, and my jokes are probably sounding really weird right now because if I make a dick joke, this is a very literal thing. This is not a meme. But it's not just that, but also it's accepting in like creation. I've never had an environment where it was so okay to fail and be bad at things. It is so fine to have your avatar just like fall apart and be super scuffed and just not work right and everything's broken and no one cares, and it's wonderful. However, these motherfuckers are so used to free things that there's a big culture of like everything being 100% free except for the avatars and the like what else? Sorry, I lost the other thing. But there is so much work happening in the space. There's so many people who, if they could, would spend their lives working on experiences in VR, and if they were able to, they would make such profound experiences. They would make beautiful things. Everything we've seen so far in VR would be blown out of the water with what's possible. But always having every single thing be filtered through the fact that it has to be hobby projects, it has to be passion projects, it has to be you're working 10 hours and you get home and you have like an hour to finish up this little sliver of thing out of this grand, gigantic idea that you have that will never come to fruition. It's depressing, honestly. I'm very lucky to have people supporting me and to be in a space where I can do my best to make a living out of this, but like all of my, like, most of my income is avatar commissions because that's where the money is. I don't even enjoy doing fucking weight paints, but that pays well, so here we are. And I enjoy it more than most any other job, don't get me wrong, love it, but if we ticketed for events, people would be pissy. If we did, and I get it. I do. But the economy on here needs to flow for it to be an actual life. And I saw that change happen on Roblox because VRChat is like doing a lot of what Roblox did, but like 5 years behind. They just got data persistence. Roblox had it since 2018. They are still getting these new economy tools. Roblox has had them for like a decade. We don't have the tools we need to actually monetize things in a way to where people won't get pissy. And also, even if we did, people would still get pissy. But like, you're going to these things where people are spending so many hours of their lives, their incredibly short lives, working on them, and they can't even eat. Like, these things aren't giving them what they need to survive and continue making them. So if we want more profound experiences, if we want more groundbreaking things, and don't get me wrong, most clubs should not be trying to be groundbreaking, but there should be a few, and they should definitely have enough money flowing through to where people aren't doing thousands of hours of unpaid labor because they need to live. they need to live. So I think the big thing is like the way people talk about monetization, I think, would be the big change.
Do you have any thoughts with regards to that? Because I know like you do avatar commissions, so like you're able to kind of benefit from helping others and doing things for others and still get compensated for it without it being largely like what you're doing isn't largely contingent on you being in VRChat and people in VRChat interfacing with the things that you're creating. Like you work on the things that you do and they're there and they can be enjoyed, and that's great. So I mean, do you have any thoughts of we have the it's very I think the conversation about this is very interesting. I don't know a whole lot about it myself. I know a little bit about it, but it is very interesting that many people have wanted there to be some matter of economy in VRChat, and even though there hasn't been much, I guess, forward movement on the creator economy, like it was launched in VRChat. But I think they're really trying to be very careful about how they go about this, and I'm sure there are a lot of logistical things and legal things that they have to make sure that they get all squared away before they can even begin to make this available for, let's say, world creators or avatar creators. So, like, what is your thinking on the creator economy as a creator yourself? Like, do you have any thoughts about it? Any hopes that you will expect from VRChat to eventually maybe make this a thing that people can take seriously? Because there's a lot of like memeing about it these days. I find.
I think there's some cognitive dissonance. I think the community has with monetization, but like, honestly, the platform it is very, very difficult in ways that I just genuinely don't know how to. I wouldn't know how to set up like a payment structure system or like a virtual currency to like communicate exchange between like hundreds of thousands of people. That's way outside my knowledge or my interest, honestly. But the part that interests me is the way that the economy is currently flowing versus where it could be. So right now, most people's money is being spent on their hardware, of course, and then like avatar assets. And of course, everyone loves their self-expression, but these bitches are willing to spend thousands of dollars on avatar assets, but would not spend like a few bucks to get in the door of like a once a year event. It's interesting.
Priorities.
Yeah,
and they're a wild thing.
Yeah, but like I'm not sure if I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. That's the hard part. Like, I'm saying things and then like second guessing because I can always think of like little weird exceptions. But obviously, it's not like I will. I'm broad brush. The economy needs to not flow all into Booth and Gumroad, but those platforms are getting so much of our money, and the, we pay for those, and we pay. Well, I don't, but a lot of people pay for VRChat Plus. I Honestly, you know what a big failing of the platform is? The VRChat Plus doesn't give you a little currency. The economy would be flowing really well if they gave you little tiny stipends. Roblox does that. And then don't get me wrong, Roblox is terrible. Like so much predatory monetization happening there, which is why I stopped doing development there because it's like, oh, people would want to commission me for like, oh, here's the most disgusting, greedy brain rot bullshit that's going to sap a bunch of 12-year-olds with their parents' credit cards. And I appreciate VRChat not doing that because holy shit, I would leave. It's depressing. It's so crushing to work on something like that. But there's a middle ground, and I think we can find it. And it's definitely going to involve the platform making new tools for people, and it's going to involve more cultural shifts toward being okay with some events being outside of someone's budget, having to actually like budget for doing things, or like if you want the big groundbreaking stuff, you might have to have some people on their Patreon or on their Patreon equivalent that isn't taking the money and putting it into Patreon, because if we had it in the platform, the money would flow around the platform and not into Patreon where it gets stuck there and
Right.
someone somewhere else. If it stayed in, the money would flow more and we would get better things. And that's the bottom line for me with the creator economy.
Okay. Gotcha. So, what are your hopes for VR in general, the tech as a whole? Like, do you see it going anywhere? Do you see it becoming something, akin to Sword Art Online? Anything similar to that? Do you see it like evolving into like a real immersive, full dive like experience at all?
So, I've got some thoughts about a full dive, but the main thing is the current like big push for the like connectivity with the actual brain is with someone who has just a flagrant disregard for safety.
Right.
You know,
it's very invasive. Yeah.
And yeah, it's invasive. It's like very experimental, and they're doing it anyway. And I appreciate like trying to help people who have literally no other choice. But if we got deep dive right now, it would kill a bunch of people, and they would continue to release deep dive. Like, our lives are built around cars that have been around for like 100 years and kill so many goddamn people, and we have alternatives that we don't use because the cars are more convenient here. And I'm imagining that similar like mindset coming from companies when deep dive starts being a thing. And this is the same thing with a lot of other tech that involves like brain connections. It's like, you're gonna kill me. I'm gonna die here. You're gonna disconnect my spinal cord and it's not gonna reconnect, and I'm gonna be a statistic that your CEO explains away by how many people are enjoying it. And I get that people are enjoying it, but God, do I not trust it. Like, these things are so jank. This thing breaks all the time. Could you imagine if every time your full body tracking messed up, instead of that, it was sending pain signals that felt like your toenails were being ripped out? Could you imagine? I know that wouldn't actually be the thing,
Yeah.
but there's equivalent problems that could happen there that terrify me. Or, like, you disconnect and don't wake up. I've had sleep paralysis before. That's the worst feeling in my life. I would never use the platform again. So deep dive is, I would love, love, love to like just actually melt into the space and become a different person and a different thing and like actually feel it. But God, am I never going to try that until we were at like a 99.999999999% safety, and that's not going to happen with the first 10 iterations of deep dive. So yeah, it's exciting. It's fun to read up on developments in brain connectivity and see how we're still learning how the nerves work. But God, it's terrifying to think about. And I really hope that it doesn't push that way without lots of very rigorous safety stuff, which I know we won't do. So that's where I'm at with it.
Okay.
Be cool though.
Yeah. So you do believe that deep dive is a possibility, is what you're saying?
It depends. It depends. So we have, when you fall asleep, your brain has a system for disconnecting all of your muscles and like, all of the feelings. And so you're not moving around when you're sleeping. And sleep paralysis is when that disconnect, or no, sorry, not sleep paralysis. The sleepwalking is when that disconnect doesn't happen correctly, and you don't get the like disconnect signal, and you are still like moving around as if you were in a dream. Now, we could totally, theoretically, I'm not a doctor, but I like the mechanisms for doing that are in the body. There is mechanisms for disconnecting the nerves, but still reading them. There are like ways to see what people are dreaming, and they're, at the end of the day, we are like little piles of meat and salt with little electrical signals going through, and we have gotten pretty damn good at controlling electrical signals as a species. So I do think it's possible. I think it will be like a dream, like not in like a metaphorical sense, but in a very literal, like this is the biochemical process that we'll probably end up doing if we ever get anything close to deep dive like SAO, where you're just actually disconnecting. But also, you are going to have people who get sleep paralysis, but like VR paralysis. And if there's not, that scares me. That scares me. It scares me in the same way that dreaming scares me, honestly. Because sometimes when I'm, I used to have it a lot more, but it's terrifying. You're stuck there and you can't do anything. And you can't move, and it's, yeah. I do think it's possible though. The mechanisms I do think are there. And that and prosthesis are things that I've done some like pretty deep dive research on, just because I really find it fascinating. But yeah, it's at least, I'm not gonna say a number of years, but a number of years away, that I won't say so I don't get clips of like, oh, this idiot thought they weren't gonna come out in 5 years and then they did, and then it was terrible like she said it was going to be. But yeah, I think it's possible. I think we'll get it eventually, and I think I won't use it until the equivalent of the like Quest 3 comes out compared to the like DV1s.
So why the hell aren't you working for Neuralink?
Have you seen what it's like to work with that guy?
I mean,
what it's like to work with that guy?
I haven't seen
Yeah.
it. I haven't seen it, but I mean, it's interesting work.
Sorry.
It's interesting work, you know.
It is. It is very, very interesting. Well, actually, there's a few problems. Firstly, as much as I enjoy doing the little deep dive researches, I'm not a like medical professional. I'm not super versed in like actual hardware, and I don't have a completed I don't even have a bachelor's degree completed. There's no way. But also, I would rather die than work for Musk because he's
Okay.
a goddamn and I hate him. So anyway, yeah, no. Not doing that.
That's fair. Okay. So how did you, I mean, I know you're not a medical professional, but how did you, oh, well, actually, I will save that for the later portion. Like you said that you had, we'll touch on this really quickly, and then we'll move on to the talk about, you know, your actual creative stuff. You said you had Phantom Sense. Did you have that the moment you got into VRChat, or was that developed in any way?
this is an interesting one. That was purposely developed by that e-boy I talked about earlier, and it's something I have actually like tried with a few other people, and it's interesting. Not like with the person's explicit understanding of what I'm doing, but what they did was something very similar to what's it called? If actually, probably the best example I've seen is in Goddamn House, MD. There's
I love that
a
show.
veteran whose apartment he breaks into when he's falling apart, where he puts the arms in and then he's touching both of them at the same time to like connect the brain with both, and then does the thing to both. And like very similar process of trying to force development of Phantom Touch, which was having me follow along with an actual finger while they followed with their like virtual finger touching different parts of my body, and like really like meditative speech patterns while doing that, and like really trying to like get me to connect with the virtual representation and get my brain to understand that like this actually feels like something. And now I'm at a point where that does feel like something, even just like I don't need to like redo the stimulation to like feel it. It just, my brain's made that connection now, and oh boy do I enjoy it. It's very fun. But yeah, it's something that I didn't have at the start and was developed on purpose, and it is something that other people can develop if they are so inclined. Just be careful, because if you feel your body in VR and then weird things happen in VR, you do kind of feel it a little bit, and it's real weird when someone walks through you, which happens a lot. So buckle in for that if interested.
Yeah.
Do you have such experience?
I actually have tried to develop it the same way that you did with the e-boy. I actually attempted that with someone else, myself. And I would say that there was a point where I was getting to that point. I was getting close, or I had like some semblance of it. But unfortunately, I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but I wasn't really able to fully make that connection. I don't know how long you spent, working on that with that guy, or however many. I don't know if it's just with the guy or so, and other people as well. But I'm not sure. But I tried multiple times over multiple sessions to kind of build that connection, and I did to a degree. But now I can only get there fully through getting high, which is unfortunate, but
same.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's way stronger when I'm high. It's
Yeah.
usually like, honestly, one of the main reasons I'm high a lot in VR is because it makes it go into like overdrive, and it's like, I think a lot of it comes from the like brain anticipating that feeling and like preemptively giving it to you. There's an interesting connection I made recently in my head about like the way our brains fill in information from stimuli that we like assume is going to happen, or like they like predict stimuli and then present it to you as if it was there the whole time. But yeah, getting high made it so much overdrive. It was very, very fun.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah, it's that's just kind of how it works, for me at least, and for you too, it seems. So yeah, like, that's kind of how I kind of compensate for not fully having it. It's mainly just I have to use a chemical change to slow my brain down, because my brain is very, very fast. I think very, very fast, and oftentimes I can't even formulate the thoughts fast enough to get them out. So I've been, it's very, very tough to talk and communicate sometimes, because my brain is just always forever going.
That's extremely relatable.
Yeah, I
It's,
figured.
Like, so relatable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I want to I'm kind of want to dive into that with you more, but not right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm very curious.
Off camera.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
But on camera thing.
Yeah.
So I talked about the brain anticipating and perceiving, and there's this thing that I saw on a little Vsauce video years ago that still messes with my head. We don't experience the world in real time. We experience a post-processed, like, amalgam of senses that our brain is interpreting, but aren't really there. And I think this is why a lot of like the phantom touch, the immersion, like the deep dive eventually, all of these work because our brains are approximating so little into so much. There's in the video what they describe. You need a clock that has a second hand that ticks. It can't be a smooth one, it's a tick. But what happens is you see the hand and it's ticking, and you look away, like properly look away, not in your peripheral, and you look back, and then it pauses, and it takes like 2 seconds to start ticking again. And what happens there is modifying your memory of what you actually saw with your eyeballs. Your brain fills in that image of the thing when you finally actually saw it, and retroactively fills in all of the bits of memory as your eyes moved toward the thing. And so in your brain, you see the clock slow down for a second and like take a bit extra long to tick, and it's every single time you look back and forth at it. It's crazy. And I spent like a solid like 15 minutes of a class in high school not paying attention because I was just staring at the stupid clock and seeing it not tick correctly. But it's wild, and it really like shows the cracks in what we're actually seeing versus what we're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And that like that fill in, that like I think that really shows the like our brains are so approximate. They're guessing. It's neat. I find it interesting.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up because like I often ask my guests this question, but I was actually going to skip over this, but since you brought that up, I'll go ahead and just ask the question. This idea of hyper-acceleration, of like our experiences in VRChat being overall faster than they are in real life, or they feel faster in real life. Like we're experiencing much more than we would in reality than we would, not really, but in VR than we would in reality. And just like how we approximate our time in VR and just the span of time seems to kind of, I guess, compress in the VR time. And I've asked people about this and how they perceive time in VR to be ultimately, I would say it's faster. Like our experiences are faster here than they are in reality. Do you have any sort of semblance, or kind of have you made any sort of connection to that in VR as your time here feeling faster? Like time goes faster, but yet we come out of VR and it feels like, oh, we haven't spent any time at all. It's like a hyperbolic time chamber like kind of thing, from like Dragon Ball Z kind of thing.
So I get, not just from VR, but also from a lot of other parts of life, I'll experience this. And I think it's, our brains are doing stuff. And when they're doing more things, it feels like time is slower. And the, you're make a little face, but the, our brain, sorry. So our brains are, wow, completely lost my train of thought. Hello. Next song. God, I'm sorry. Our brains experience time basically approximately, and mostly based on what we're remembering having passed. So the more novel experiences you're having, the more your brain will be recording and the slower time will feel. But also, the more fun you're having, or the more substances you're taking, the faster it will go. So you're going to be experiencing a lot of ping-ponging of, I think. We're getting toward the me yapping and guessing, but like vaguely remember hearing about these. But your perception of time is never linear, and oh boy, with ADHD, I don't even have one at all. But I think that you can get the same thing in real life. It's just that VR is a space where you are. it's interesting. You're in the same physical space, so there's a lot of sensations that your brain's processing that are the same every time, and so there's not as much novel there, but there's also experiences that you could never get in your everyday life, and so see, now I'm thinking. I think there's a lot of interesting factors there, but it is something that happens in real life as well. And I do, more than just the perception of time, our relationships also are affected by this. And
Yeah,
I feel
and
like
that's one factor that I think is very important. Like how quickly people seem to connect with other people and relationships that are made, they seem to just be sped up like 2 to 3 times faster. I would say even maybe sometimes 5 times faster than in real life. Like you can meet someone in VR chat and immediately you're like, oh, we talked for like 10 minutes. Oh, can I friend you? Okay, cool. And that may be someone that you end up hanging out with for like years in the future. So it's like that wouldn't happen in real life. So like just the experiences that we have.
Wait.
What? Go ahead.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not in real life?
Why not in real
Why
life?
not?
Because like people in real life.
Actual genuine question.
Okay.
Like,
That's fair.
because I do that in real life. I have those like instant super friendships or like really quick relationships. I've had those happen in real life as well. So the question is like, what boundaries are you running into that are in real life that aren't here?
Oh, I'm not running into boundaries personally, but I would say like for the average person, I would say like most people would be very cautious. Like I'm a very cautious person in general. So like when I first meet somebody, I generally want to have a conversation with them over the course of like 1 to 2 times. It has to be either a long, in-depth conversation that I've had for any amount of time, or if I'm just cursorily meeting somebody for like the first time, I'm less likely to add them to like have them on my friends list because I don't know if I connect with them on any sort of level. So like I feel that much less inclined to do so. But I think more people just feel like it's very easy to just add someone to your friends list in VR chat, and it's just easy to kind of like it's like a courtesy of sorts, and people like get into their feelings about adding people on their friends list, and even I do sometimes once in a while. But I think it becomes a lot easier for people to do so in VR than in real life because you're not really adding someone to your friends list in real life. You're more so kind of deciding that I want this person to be involved in my life, and I feel comfortable enough with them that I'm willing to give them, I don't know, my Discord username at the very least these days, you know? I just think that doesn't really happen as often in real life because I guess most people are very kind of like, well, I don't really know this person yet. So I kind of treat VR in the same way until I actually feel like I know a person and can decipher them and understand them to a point where I can kind of create a similar data bank for them in some shape or form. Like we actually talked about things. I feel less inclined to add them to my friends list because I don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
It's very systematic for me.
That makes sense. It's definitely there's a few boundaries that I think would affect me in real life that wouldn't affect me here. I mean, like obviously the big one is like I'm still in my room. I'm sitting on my bed. So sorry for the immersion break, but like this is my comfiest spot. I'm wearing like I'm wearing cargo shorts and like a shitty t-shirt I fell asleep in last night. I don't have to dress up. I don't have to worry about my overgrown like lizard brain or like the rest of like the body. It's fine. It looks the way I want it to the moment I'm in, so I don't have to worry about any of that or think about it. I'm in the space. I'm comfy, and the big thing I think for me now that I'm not on my chaos arc, which is how I'm gonna lovingly call the downfall, but I do care about my safety a little bit right now, and as much as it feels like you're here, also if you did something really creepy or tried to like I could block you. I could block you instantly.
Right.
And then I wouldn't have to deal with that anymore. I could hit the home button and teleport out of the room. And it's not a thing that we get elsewhere. And it's really nice, actually, to be able to teleport out of the room if you're not feeling it. Because, oh boy, there's times where I want to teleport out of the room in real life. Yeah. I think there's a few things. It's interesting.
Yeah. I think it's a interesting discussion to have about IRL versus VR and just how our interactions are both similar and also different between both sectors. But let's jump into your creative stuff since we spent a lot of time in VR chat, which is great. Um, so let's talk about things that you've done in VR chat and things that you've made in VR chat. So I guess we can start with I guess the most important question. Um, what is the thing you're most proud of that you've made in VR chat, and why?
Oh, it's a hard question. Um, Shoot. Is it a cop out to say it's a tie? I don't know. It's so actually, yeah, no, I am gonna say it's a tie because they're for two very different reasons. I like them. Um, for actually, there's three. I'm just gonna yap about them and the things I like about them because I don't want to pick favorites because they're all my little babies. But Moonpool is a very accessible space for people to make visuals in a way that some of my other stuff has not been. Or like some more like ambitious projects may have like weird UV mapping or other stuff they have to mess with, or you can't just like put a random video in like our hologram shit. You have to have a very specific setup for that, and it's a lot. But it's really interesting and fun to mess with. But Moonpool, you could put in whatever you want into the video player and it plays, and you can like my favorite thing to throw on there on all the particle screens is like the Cowboy Bebop intro or the National intro, both of National season 2. Both of them have like the big color blocks and wonderful beautiful, and the big thing is that artists in those spaces have a very easy time starting out with seeing what works. They just open up Touch Designer or Tool or Magic or whatever other program, and they just start making stuff. And one of the first people who really got into that was Nemorin, who was the VJ for the third part of Seasons. Beautiful, wonderful visuals. And this person spent so many hours staring at my screens and seeing like what worked on them and what they could make on them, and it's beautiful. And so I think Moonpool is my favorite for like enabling a wide swath of artists to make a wide variety of different wonderful beautiful performances, and like and they're all so different as well, and yeah, I really like that world. It's one of my favorites. And so many inspiring artists have come through there. I also got to shout out RB, who also does that. Honestly, like Nam was the first one to really like dig in and see what worked, but we've had a lot of other wonderful videos, like all wonderful. Like Turk does crazy. Turk is just crazy good. The sets in there, and it's profound. Love that place for the way it enables a wide variety of artists. Now, Frictions of a Modulated Soul by Steph is one of the favorite things I've ever worked on. That I my problem was I didn't see the vision as we were working on it. All I saw was a big list of technical things that I had to solve and my own perfectionism that I was running into. But that experience, God, I cry every time. I tear up every single time. I've heard it so many times and I still tear up. It was beautiful. And it was made specifically for Steph, specifically for this thing. And so it doesn't have the same thing as Moonpool, where it's an accessible thing where artists can just go in, make an instance, do a pop-up. I don't, like, just go play with the thing. It's fun. Frictions was a very like personal. Steph wants these things. We're gonna make these things happen. Steph has this vision. We're gonna do our best to make it happen. And very blessed to have Adidas and Namarin on the hologram stuff there because it's really difficult, and they were very willing to try out the experimental stuff. So I love that one. And finally, the Star World is completely different from either of them because this is not enabling artists. This is my own kind of like attempt at showcasing like my own specialties in like big data processing and efficient rendering techniques um, in making experiences that are in VR so beautiful and different from what you could experience anywhere else. And I love that one. I love them all for different reasons, and I love them all so much. So all three are my favorites. Yeah.
Okay.
But if I
Yeah.
had to pick, just for the sake of being able to have so many artists run through it and how much like replay value we've gotten out of it, probably Moonfall. Honestly, love Moonfall.
Awesome. Awesome.
You know that map started from like a napkin sketch that To Arbiter did for Null.
Really?
It was,
The entire
yeah.
world started from a napkin sketch?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, not literally a napkin sketch, but basically, yeah. Like, RB approached me because I had done, for Modular Monday, made the particle screens and the lighting, like, the really terrible first iteration, and RB came over, like, really early on, like, before anyone had seen, like, basically anything I had done, except for those, like, those Modular Monday things, and I was still looking for commissions, and RB's like, hey, I have this idea for a world using your stuff. Can we try it? And I was like, yeah, yeah. And I saw the sketch. It was like big flat plane, pit, sky, and it was loosely inspired by this world Gym Lights, which is based on an actual art installation. But like, yeah, it was really like a out of the blue. This person's approaching me and wants to try doing a collaboration, and I don't know them very well. I don't know anything they've done, but this idea seems fun and worth pursuing, and they'll buy me Taco Bell along the way, so this is worth it. And oh boy, I'm so happy I said yes to that. Every time I think about it, I'm happy that I like pursued that because it was. I love my friends. I love the people I make stuff with, and I love seeing new fun ideas.
Amazing.
But yeah, it started out as such a casual like just idea out of the blue, and became so much. It made me happy.
Hell yeah. I mean, that really is, like, honestly, like, you never know what will come out of just, a basic idea, or just taking on an opportunity that, may not seem like much at the beginning, but it may end up becoming something, bigger than you thought it would end up becoming. And I think that's really the beauty of, being creative in this space. You never know who's going to use it. You don't know how they're going to use it. And I'm sure you've iterated on the world multiple times to make it more powerful and to do more things. And I'm sure that you were inspired by your friends and other creators to kind of continue to iterate on that and make it better, which is I think that's pretty impressive. It's very, very cool stuff. It's good to see. So let me see, like, with regards to Moonpool, actually one question before I get into that. The other two locations, well, not locations, but the other two projects that you mentioned, are they like worlds that you can go to, or are they productions?
Star World is a world. Frictions was a proper production. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so Star World is something that I have public, although right now it's between versions because I've got a big update that I've been working on for a while, but also a lot of other things have been coming up. But Star World right now is this place where I have 2 million stars pulled from the Gaia database and the ATHYG like star catalogs. And what it is just like I take my particles and I place them in 3D space where 1 meter is 1 parsec, which is I can't remember what the actual conversion is, but big distance, and I'd map all the stars. And when I got it, it was something that wonderful friend Starheart wanted to see, and also got advice from Silent Raz, Zifik, I think, a few others. But what happened was I got the star data into the particles, and there were 2 million particles, and I saw that number, but on my screen was like a few thousand. and I had the beautiful, smart shader person Rez tell me, "Hey, you can fix this. There's ways to like make it so they don't disappear into the anti-aliasing. Because if something's too small, it's going to get lost in the subpixels, and you won't be able to see it, or it'll flicker weird." So she suggested expanding them to be like 3 pixels width, at least. And oh boy, suddenly there's stars. There's stars covering your entire vision. There's stars. There's stars so dense and so many that it is a like existential crisis level fun place to stare at. Frictions.
Yeah.
Frictions was a dance performance by Steph, who is one of my favorite VJs, on top of the list of other VJs that I'm fond about. But she does this very unique thing that I've never seen before, where she incorporates her dancing, like captures of her avatar dancing, into her visuals. And it is beautiful and amazing. And she had asked me to collaborate on her submission for Rain Dance for last year. And we had just finished doing this hologram system where you could stream in a video and it would recreate the 3D object that's inside of the capture system. And this was a concept that Adidas had come up with. One of the SNR labs, the SNR lab, he came up with it and like described it to me, and I didn't really understand what it was or what he was trying to do. But once they got it working, it was beautiful. It's very clever. A systems engineer person, very like high level. Here's an idea. I know this will work. Just trust me on this, and I do, and it works. And very good, very smart cookie. So we had that going, but the idea was to use a system to capture the avatars live as they moved around, so we got a 3D version of the like 2D dancing. And once we had that running and we had an avatar just sitting in the cube and then a gigantic copy of it made out of particles dancing around, frame perfect, matching the movements, it was incredible. And she started coming up with all of these like giant like beautiful ideas and this like huge storyboard. And I'm still like, a year later, I'm still talking to some of the people from Rain Dance, and they're telling me about how like they usually have criticisms for scripts, but they just didn't for hers, which is wild. Because like I said earlier, I didn't understand. I didn't see the picture. I was stuck in my own nitty gritty, and was not seeing the whole thing come together until like rehearsals. And God, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And yeah, we're hoping to make that into something that isn't just like this was done these 3 nights and now it's over forever. But it is very, very technically challenging to make it do something like the way we have Seasons replaying, where you can just go to that world and then it starts and it does it. And even Seasons, like, there's a control tablet in that world. You move the sliders around to change the settings to whatever you want, and that's something I work with the artists on, to trying to figure out what they would want for more controls in the world. We just added some new ones to like the newer version. That is like the set in December that I did. It was using this new like HSV system. I'll save it for when I get into the real shader technicals, but it changed the way the lighting, or the way the particles moved and the light was calculated, and it shed huge impact on the visuals. It's beautiful. But the yapping about. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a sec. Shaders,
frictions.
people.
Having
yes.
frictions be a thing that you can come back to and experience multiple times.
Yes. So, to get Seasons to work required making a system that would recreate those settings movements alongside the video player, which also means that the system had to be designed to where if you move back, like scrub backwards at the video player, it undoes those settings. Difficult.
Yeah.
Now, on top of that, Frictions had more settings, more things in the world happening, and this would require like also the movement of the avatar with like some kind of captured dance. It's a huge technical challenge that we're still hopefully hoping to overcome, but with so many little roadblocks. But since we did Rain Dance, we wanted to make it replay. It was just difficult. It's difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it sounds technically difficult.
Someday,
It really, really does. So, I mean, but I'm sure, if you can get seasons to work, I'm sure you'll be able to get that one to work too, and people will be able to appreciate it. Like, I didn't get to see all of seasons. Well, actually, wait, I think I did get to see all of seasons. I think I did. Did it all happen in one night? Were all the DJs there for that one night? Was it like a repeated thing, or? Mm. I think it was. Yeah.
We did 2 showings for Rain Dance, and then can't remember if we did a friend showing. We did a friend showing of Frictions, but like what was happening was we had the VJs. Each group was a pair of DJ and VJ, who were all like in these big planning sessions where we're trying to like make a cohesive. Because usually when you have like DJs and VJs and you have multiple, you're doing like here's this person's set completely isolated, here's the next person's set. Sometimes they bleed into each other fairly well, sometimes people like really try, but it only a few times in VR have I like heard of people doing like big cohesive sets. So what we did was like really early on planning sessions where like, oh, we want the concept of seasons. What does that mean to us as a group, as individuals? What elements do we want cohesive throughout? What things are we, by we I mean the artists. I'm just sitting there waiting for them to give me instructions on what to code. But like from the planning sessions all the way through, this was a very like cohesive experience between all 6 artists who were there. Yeah, it was beautiful. But yeah, they were all I'm fairly certain they were all playing live, like live DJing, feeding through into live visuals, and you can tell because on the second night, the first night we were having some technical issues with one of the streams. It's like, yeah, we were actually changing streams during that. We were like we were doing a lot of things, but we were doing our best to like hide that. Like there's an ambient volume slider inside there, and those sliders are used to do transitions, so there's not the dead space of switching streams. Mm-hmm. And there's like parts of the show where we like have to black it out so that people can swap. It's very fun. It's really very impressive, especially because we did not end up finalizing a system to make those swaps seamless, so we had to just hide them as best we could.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all. Yeah. Anyway, we recorded and then put together the replay so that we could have people keep experiencing it even after the live DJing was over.
Amazing, yeah.
It was live. Yep, I'm remembering it now.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So, how long did it take you to put together the initial work in Moonpool? How long was that development period?
Not long, but it was also jank. So most of my projects end up being these like big forever work in progresses, but like, eventually there's a deadline because we're going to throw an event there. So I just work with what I have. But I've been working on the like particle system and the lighting system for, 2 years and 4 months now, I think. Like August 2023 is when I started. I had spent a week making the little particle screen, and then like forever on lighting systems, and I kept improving the particles while also working on the lighting systems. But yeah, the long time and also not a long time. the moon pool itself, most of the like development of the particles and the lighting happened in the earlier map that I made for Modular Monday, which we actually had J-Flow's birthday at. Which is, oh, that was such a good event. God, the art, the visuals, the music, fuck, so good. Anyway, most of the development actually happened there. So by the time we were making Moonpool, we already had a lighting system, we already had particles. So all that was left was making the really shitty concrete hole in the floor that I put together in like 20 minutes as a prototype that we ended up running an event at, and it was horrible, but it didn't matter because people loved it. So yeah.
Okay.
I like to make systems that are fairly robust so that I can use them in a lot of different places. Like, Star World is also the same particle screen initially, modified heavily after, but like, the prototype for it was literally I drag the particle screen in, I drag a texture in that has the star positions, and I change like 3 lines of code, and then bam. I like making things modular so I can slap stuff together like that. It's very fun.
I mean, I think it's also efficient. You know, it's fun, but I think it's satisfying to be able to just reuse things that you have already made, and to just be able to slap them in and still see something really, really cool, and still have a unique experience in that space. Which, you know, I think it's really, really. I mean, I think that's just good development. That's just streamlining the development process. Yeah, very, very good. So yeah.
Importantly, the prototyping, zippy, so that I can try a lot of things, because the best way to learn anything is to fail a lot, and the faster you can fail, the faster you'll learn. So me having lots of making flyweight super modular prototype tools for myself, or finding them and using them, means that I fail really quickly, which is why I learn quickly.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's something I definitely talk to people about. I say that all the time. Like, you will not learn unless you fail. And the more you fail, you know, the better you'll get if you really are paying attention and learning from your mistakes. You know, that's how to get anywhere in life. So, you know, not everyone is lucky to get it on the first try. So, you know, yeah, I love that. So with regards to, you know, like, how did you come up with this lighting particle system? It seemed like you said this is something that's been developed even before Moonpool was even thought of. So, how did you go about creating this, and why did you create this in the first place? I mean, I guess the reason was Modular Mondays. Was that the reason, or was it something else?
Actually, the map I made for Modular Monday, but the initial was actually Adidas, who is still in chat, and hello, very lovely person. So there existed a particle screen, and there existed a world. The idea of particles is fairly simple on like graphics side of things. You like you just render a quad and then clip the edges, and then bam, you got circles, and then you just place them where you want them, and then bam, you've got particle fields. But the thing that Adidas was running into was they had bought an asset off a booth that would do particle screen, but it would only work with these very specific meshes, and it would only work with like a few different shapes that it could generate. And what Adidas wanted was to put it on basically whatever. And so what I ended up doing was doing some like deep dive research, looking into like rendering those, trying to figure out shaders in general, because this was the first shader I'd ever written actually, which is why it was also terrible, but it worked well enough. But yeah, Adidas just wanted to like be able to experiment with it more, and so asked me if I could try doing try making a version that could be placed on any mesh, which did require quite a bit of research to rendering, because it was my first Unity shader. And oh boy, geometry shaders are weird, and there's not a lot of good docs on them, but they're fun. So I ended up making the thing in about a week, and handing it back to him, and he's having a lot of fun with putting it on stuff. And we had been doing Modular Monday at the time. The reason I was doing the shaders is because I was writing shaders in my VJ sets for Modular Monday, because it's faster than node wrangling if you know how to code really well. So this is a very experimental foray that has just kind of like expanded. But yeah, all started from him just wanting a more robust version of something that already existed, and the lighting system came about from there's this place, I think it's Endless Serenity by Ozlix. Beautiful, like particle thing, but at the time it had a reflection probe as the lighting, and now still it has like LTCGI, which means that the particles move, but they aren't lighting things relative to 3D space, which is an extremely difficult challenge. Don't get me wrong, that world is beautiful and wonderful, and Ozlix is very talented, but when you have a particle in some of the worlds that I have, like in Moonpool especially, but also like in the Modular Monday one, we had this like, I'm gonna get out my samples. It's happening.
Okay.
We're doing it.
That works.
Because I have this little guy, which is the actual particle screen. And if I do this button, and then this button, and then this button, and then this button, it's curved like this, and that's backwards. We're gonna go like this.
There we go.
Alright, so it's curved like this, and the height is based on how bright each particle is. So, when we have it curving like this, you have it expanding outward. So if you have the lighting just statically right here, and then the particles move forward, you're not going to be actually lighting where the particle is, you're lighting where it was. And there's ways to approximate it, but you need a fundamentally different lighting system to account for something, because if you want it to really expand and the light that's over here is currently being shown here, it's going to just look wrong and bad and not good. And so even though these were like very beautiful works, it really took, it really needs its own lighting system. So what I ended up working on was a few different approaches, but the one I ended up doing was one where it would, it's based on NVIDIA's VXGI voxel Conecaster, where initially what I did was just like, oh, here's here's the particles in space. Now let's take a 3D representation of this space. So we've got our big grid, and each of these cubes would be a voxel, just like Minecraft, where we capture all of the light in each of the voxels. And we see how much is in there, and then we're going to do the lighting through this big grid system, because instead of actually doing like per light, because the way dynamic lights render is you have a pass, like the computer has to redo a bunch of work for every single light that's being hit onto an avatar. It's really messy, and the area lit and LCGI and now stage lighting, they all have their own very nice approximations of the process, but like I want 3D, I want it to move in space. So what I ended up doing was I take the big 3D grid and I capture it in these slices. So if I took a 2D grid where each of these represents one of those 3D slices along this axis. So each one of these boxes is this slice here, or this slice, or the next one. So we take the mesh, then we split it into each of their own slices, which is currently happening live for fun. And then we flatten them down. Now we have a 2D version of the lighting in the world, approximated by placing all of them onto this big grid. And what's nice about that is that it's extremely fast to render, because it's the same process as when you're rendering the particles. When you're looking at them, it's just from a different perspective, and it's moving them onto this grid structure so it can rebuild the voxel grid. And so it takes it to here, and then it expands back out into the 3D. But this time, instead of the actual points, it's just on the textures. And so the texture is recreating the positions, but very approximate and on a very well-defined grid, which means that we can do very, very fast math to figure out how the lighting is hitting each pixel. So once we voxelize it, then for every pixel on the screen, we shoot out a big cone and we see how much light is hitting that pixel. And we shoot multiple of those cones, and we shoot a really long, thin one for reflections, and that's how the lighting system works. I'm so happy to have my little visuals because they're so much more fun than trying to explain it without them.
So is the 2D is the 2D rendering of like the textures, is that meant to kind of cut down on processing to make it so that you can do more with less?
Yes, because all of the alternatives are way slower. So I wanted my 3D captures, and there's alternative ways to bring it back. So there's a lot of different ways to capture this amount of information, but this is 1/8 of the actual number of particles, and it's still a lot to render and do. They still have to be lightweight, but you could imagine normal lighting systems where each individual light source requires an entire separate path. Like this would crash instantly. Even approximations would struggle. And so what I really wanted to do was find ways to utilize the hardware for what it's actually designed for. And the hardware is designed to take 3D information, put it onto a 2D space, and then 3D information, 2D space, and then convert that into pixels. And that's like the rasterization process. And so what I'm doing is abusing the rasterizer, hardly know her, and being like, hey, just like I'm looking at this way, I have a new camera that's looking at it in a different way, and also when that camera's looking at it, can you behave slightly differently and be the grid like I want you to be? And then we can take that texture and throw it back in. And so instead of having like weird niche specialized hardware, or like having to use like RTX cores or do really weird shit, the way I've voxelized with the cameras is already using what the hardware has been specializing for like 20 years, and that's why it's so zippy. So that's why I went with the system I did and how it works.
And so you said that you developed this system, this process, based off of the information that you had already done research on?
Yeah, I've read through a few research papers on different voxelization techniques, but the geometry shader grid layout thing was something that I had come up with that I'm very proud of. It's good times.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I think I obviously this is all completely out of my own wheelhouse for sure, but it's very, very interesting to kind of like see it, and basically kind of like see it firsthand and understand to some degree the process that you went through to kind of make this so that you could render this in a large space. So it was necessary to simplify the processing necessary to render all of those pixels so that you could actually present this without crashing everybody. But there are still processing. I think there's still like I think systems still struggle during actual like sessions in Moonpool. Despite the simplification or like the 2D into 3D rendering process that you put together. So why is that? Is that mainly because of like maybe I think it's due to how many people are there, so other avatars that are there, causing that slowdown? Because I think it would run perfectly if there were not like 60 people in the world. But would that be the reason why there is some slowdown that happens in the world despite the system being as robust and streamlined as it is?
Look, as much as I'd love to blame the very pores, it's not just the avatars. It's exacerbated by the avatars and the level of detail on them, but there is also a huge issue with the system currently in that it's dependent on projectors. Now, projectors are a fancy little shitty component that Unity has since deprecated for good reason, but what they do is they're like, hey, you just rendered the avatar. You have done all of the work to go from arbitrary mesh data into the world space, into the camera projection. You've placed all the pixels and rendered them. You've done all the fancy math. But hey, do you want to do it again and get the same exact result for most of it, but also change the last part slightly? And there's no better way to... The part that sucks is that there's not really a better way to do it in VR except to have like avatar shader modules happen, which is what I'm working on currently as one of the like finalized things for releasing this. But like, the way LTCGI gets around this is your LTCGI Foyomi module, your LTCGI integration with like Mochis, with all these other ones. It's like you can have the shaders pull off of the information the same way the world shaders do, and it would be faster and look better, but you have to write the integration, and it is a lot of work and a bit obtuse, depending on the system. I just got Foyomi modules working just like a few days ago, and that was only because Raz, who helped with the Star World, also helped advise how to get that working, and I'm very grateful and excited to do more stuff with it, because I also want my own custom modules for my own, like, I want to make my tattoos do fancy shader stuff. Anyway, yeah, projectors are expensive, avatars can be expensive, but even when they're not, 60's a lot of people. But I do want it. I really, really, really want it to be performant. It's the most important thing for me. I go so far that I will yoink the compiled like machine code the shader's spitting out, and I will read through that and do like comparisons between different iterations of every part of the most expensive rendering. I open the worlds in RenderDoc, and I'm gandering at the like timings that each individual pass is taking to see where the bottlenecks are happening, and I'm really trying really hard to make this vicious little lighting system not chug on people's computers, and I feel like I've done a decent job, but at the end of the day, 60 avatars rendering twice isn't happening. You do have to use avatar culling at a certain point. It's getting better every iteration, and I do have the performance slider in there. People are struggling, and the new versions default that to low, which is ideal because I don't want people to crash out if they're in the world, but also I want them to hit high if they can handle it because it looks better. But yeah, it's a lot of things, and as a world creator, the important thing is to be accessible and to make sure that people aren't crashing out just because they can't afford the best hardware. I don't have the best hardware. I can't afford a 4090, so I can't expect everyone else going to these to... I don't want people to be filtered out by how much money they have. That would suck. The community would be a big, snooty, terrible mess. So accessibility is important, but also balancing with all the fancy little stuff that I want to do, and it's difficult, but worth it. Very rewarding, and I'm very lucky to be able to do it full time, because otherwise it'd be so fucking tedious that I would not be able to do it if I was also working full time. It would be so much.
That's fair. That's fair. So what do you have a certain spec? Do you have certain specifications that you are trying to optimize the world for, like certain hardware that you are specifically like aiming towards when you're trying to improve performance of Moonpool?
Honestly, I don't have a specific benchmark. It's just like, whoever in the community has the worst computer, please come talk to me. Let's get this running. On yours, even if you have to hit the low or the off button, I want it to still at least load and like show something. But like for the actual like worst case benchmark, I think we have like we recently did a like benchmarking thing where we gave out a little survey to see like what people had and like what hardware they had, and they like fill it out themselves, so we're not POSing the information gathering. But I found a lot of like it's a lot of RTX cards, a lot of like 30 series, and the worst one that was there was a 1080. So that's probably the benchmark, but if anyone has a worse GPU and is running VRChat but is not running my world very well, please come talk to me. I will make it run on your machine. I just need to know where things are bottlenecking. But yeah, I just want the community to be able to access what we're doing. And so that is the benchmark. Whoever in the community is struggling, they're gonna get my attention.
All right. That makes sense to me. So like, how, I guess what is the most challenging aspect of continuing to develop for Moonpool, and I guess even for Star World as well? I imagine you're still doing work on that too. You said in between iterations for that. So what is the most challenging part of it? What's the most, I guess, time consuming, challenging, whichever is more relevant?
You know what? I'm calling myself out. Perfectionism. I want everything to be so perfect that I never let it be good. And it really stifles how much I could be working on, because I'm still staring at the stupid code for the stupid little Gaussian blurs that we do for the approximations for the light spreading, because I don't know why I'm staring at that code still. It's fine. It runs well. It's not even measurably impacting the frames with any changes I do. It's just oh, I can get plus 10 microseconds out of this if I change it to this, because it's one less operation. Who fucking cares? Just release the damn thing, me. Yeah. The challenge is that I want it to be perfect, and it won't be. And that's that.
Hey, I can definitely relate. There was a point in my life where I was very held back by my own perfectionism, and then I just had to kind of let go and just be like, hey, if it's ready to go, just put it out there. Just do it. And then iterate later on. It is kind of the way of things, but I definitely can relate for sure. So so I guess I want to say, I don't know if it's my last question related to Moonpool, but I guess what has your process? I guess what is the process that you go through to, I guess, iterate on a project like this? Because it seems pretty impressive, pretty large. So if you could break down for the layman what your process is to make updates, I think that would be kind of interesting to hear about.
So Shader Goblin is also making fun of myself a little bit for how chaotic I do things. But it's a lot of, I think I mentioned RenderDoc, but for when I'm doing performance iterations, I'm loading it in a program that shows me exactly how long it takes for each step of the rendering to happen, and I'm loading the world in before and after each change to make sure that it's actually improving things if I'm going for performance. And then for non-performant things, like we're making new things or prototyping, I always start with my shader test world, which is this place that is this is how I get through the perfectionism. It is jank. It's jank as hell. It's such a mess in that world, and I allow myself to have the messy space to make things that are broken and don't work, and give me a headache to stare at in VR because they don't work. But I start there, and I started there with Star World as well, and I'm still starting there with new Star World stuff. I make the thing there. It's terrible in there, but it works, and people say it's cool, and I drag them there to get some affirmation. And then I take it from there, throw it into the actual project, realize how broken it is, and slowly try fixing it. And this, throwing shit at the wall, seeing what sticks, is why I call myself the goblin, the shader goblin, because I am really not planning things super well, and I probably should. But it really just depends on what the thing is. Sometimes I start with MS Paint drawings, sometimes I start with just typing shit and seeing what works. It depends.
So you're saying there's no set process for going about updating things, or just kind of going in, like just kind of throwing it out there, seeing what's there, and then just, like kind of just seeing what works, like arbitrarily?
Yeah. But the one big thing for the worlds is making sure that I'm not. We're doing a little bit of version control. I've got copies of the worlds, like their older versions that are currently uploaded and working. And when I'm doing big changes, like fundamental, like I'm restructuring how this project works, I'm redoing this thing entirely, I will make a brand new copy of the project and I will start working from there, because when I fuck stuff up, and I will, I can always go back. This actually happened during Frictions. I had been coming down to the wire, perfectionism again, and like really focusing on the wrong parts of the projects, and not finishing things. So we were finishing things right toward the end, and it was the dress rehearsal, and everyone was ready, and then I pushed the update to the world, and we get there, and like for half the people it's broken. And I don't know why it's not working. I don't know what's happening right now, but thank fuck that I have the older copy of the test world also uploaded, because we jumped to that and we didn't lose the project. And similar things have happened with some of our other things, where it's like we have the backups ready because this is so experimental, because we're trying it for the first time, because this is our first like tests. We have it ready. The Star World's new update is uploaded. It's on the site. It's not public. It's on a test version, and I'm glad I did, because it's broken. And I'm really glad I didn't override the live version with the broken test version, because then there would be no world. So I'm a bit anal about backups. I've made posts about it before, but it's like making sure, especially with coding, that you have versions. They're text files, guys. They're like 1 megabyte. You can copy them. Yeah, like copy the project, iterate, push it to main when it's finally actually functioning and not destroying everyone. Yeah, it's a lot of testing.
Yeah, I bet. So, like, what does it look like when Moonpool breaks? Like is it like this very, like, I actually have like I have a void phobia. So I didn't realize this until I got into VR.
You're the reason we have the hedge toggle. Congratulations.
Okay. Well, yeah. Yeah. I don't. I can't deal with void spaces. I can't. So yeah. How do you deal with like things breaking? Like, and what does it look like visually in the world? Does everything just go black? Is it just like pitch black when that happens, or?
It depends. It depends on how it broke, but the fun part about shaders is that you are telling the GPU exactly what to do, and you sure can tell it to break. Star World's one of my favorites for those, because what happens in Star World when I mess up my math, when I was trying to figure out how to make it like do the scaling thing, is that my GPU crashes, and then Windows sometimes crashes. Because if you have 2 million particles, and they're all taking up like 1 pixel of space, each pixel on the screen only has to rasterize like 1 of them, right? But if every single star takes up the entire screen, then every pixel has to render 2 million stars, which means you're doing 2 million times the work, which means your GPU crashes, and then you die. So the initial testing for me is always on desktop, so I don't die. And I only end up getting into VR to test things once I actually fairly certain it's gonna work, because otherwise I get crazy motion sick, I get headaches from flashing lights. I do not enjoy any of the artifacts that I create sometimes, but when things break, they fucking break. They'll turn like the magenta of nightmares. They'll just like not work at all. In Steph's thing, there is a bug that I've still yet to completely figure out what's causing it, but sometimes the lighting just flickers for no goddamn reason, and I don't know why, and it hurts me. But like, thankfully it's not the whole world's lighting, just the avatar. But the performance is lights around her avatar, so it's gotta not happen. But yeah, not ideal. It, it depends on which part of the shader. If if the projections or like the math fucks up, things will be weird shapes. Things will be stretched and squashed. That 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 example I showed where the thing was like splitting off and then it like gets scrunched. That scrunching process is like what the camera's projector is up to, or the projection matrix is up to. It's like getting it onto the like planes for the pixels to be actually rendered. And if that fucks up, you get the thing where like if you've ever seen something like skew really weird and crunch, like everything just becomes like flat and incorrect. Or even worse, when it starts moving with your head, I genuinely get so sick every time. It's so bad. Yeah, things break funny. Things break funny sometimes. I might do a compilation at some point of my things breaking funny just to show people that I fail constantly and I just keep going anyway. I've had a friend recently talk to me about how she was like, feeling like she was bad at like writing shaders because she was like she'd work on a thing, it'd be done, and it would have issues, and she was really worried about the issues. And the thing is, like, if you just keep iterating on it, eventually it becomes good. These things don't start good. Mine started fucking awful. The first iteration we had looked like dog shit. The first one was like, it looks like it was just reflection probes, because it was. And then the second version was like, oh, it's lighting directly on the grid, and so everyone's like, if the screen is yellow, the whole avatar is just yellow. And we weren't blending the colors together at all. Or like the next iteration, it was like the ground looks wet because everyone not doing roughness correctly. And that was still an issue like a year later after we first started working on the thing. Only like at JFlow's birthday was the first time we showcased that actually being like properly PBR fixed. We have roughness now. It can be diffuse. And so the big thing is to just like, if you feel like you suck at something, probably everyone does at the start. Everyone starts sucking at things, but you just keep doing it, and eventually you suck less, and then you stop sucking. Yeah, so I feel like the iteration is very important, and like I said, the faster you fail, the faster you learn. And I just want my friends to fail more. Show me your failures. Show me everything falling apart, and maybe I'll post my own stuff falling apart to make people feel better about theirs breaking. I remember there was a post some game devs from Cyberpunk did, where they were showing like walkouts of their maps, and it was like, this looks so jank. How did this become like the game? And it's because they kept going after they failed, or after it looked like shit, or after it was really weird and jank. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like modular one day, honestly. That's a space where it was okay to fail, and it was okay to fail constantly. And I've been talking to Adidas about this. I want a new space where it's okay for people to fail and fuck up, and everyone's fine with it. I would not be doing shaders if I didn't have a space where I could go up and VJ horribly and fuck everything up and ruin this person's DJing set, which happened to me before because I had my shit fucked. And I genuinely, like, I ruined this person's modular set. I, like, destroyed what they were making because my own stuff was having technical issues that I didn't understand at the time. And yet I kept doing it. They invited me back. We kept doing it, and eventually it became this. And if I didn't have that space, I don't think I'd keep doing it after that. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree that it is important. It is important to have space where people can fail, like 100%. I think having spaces like that it's hard to do that. I mean, unless you create it. At least in VR, unless you're creating your own world, your own space to like completely just repeatedly fail at, to actually like, do it like live and in front of people, that can be very daunting and pretty discouraging. But I think if you're passionate enough, I think you can like people can work towards getting better and improving, and that's the most important thing, not losing motivation to continue to move forward and improve and iterate. So I agree. I hope
Exactly.
yeah, I hope there's a place like that where people can like just freely just express themselves and fail fantastically and still be able to, you know, feel like, oh well, you know, I did my best and I'll come back better and hopefully it'll be better next time. And then everyone can be like overjoyed that, oh, well, it worked out this time. It's great this time, you know? It could be like a mutual celebratory thing, which I think would be really, really nice.
Exactly. And we could just like put random memes up. It didn't matter if things were broken because people were still having a good time. And it's yeah. It's something that Adidas and I have been missing since Much of the Monday stopped, and it's something that I don't know if it's official, but we definitely have talked a lot about doing something with SNR where we have an event where it's like, this is the space to come and try, and it's fine if you fail because you can try again next time. And there will always be a next time, and there will always be more opportunities to continue to fail and iterate. So hopefully.
All right.
Yeah.
So one last question with regards to the technical stuff. What is LTCGI for people who don't know? I actually don't know either. So.
Oh, okay. So LTCGI is a lighting system God, I can't remember who made it. I'm so sorry. You're very talented and smart. But it's this lighting system that uses linear cosine transforms, and I'm realizing that I'm not going to explain these super well if I try. But it's a lighting system where, if you've ever seen a world that has like a flat screen and it's got like beautiful real-time lighting on that screen and it's like super accurate, and then you have exactly one person in the audience whose avatar is showing it and like complete shiny detail because the Poyomi setting used to be broken and wouldn't smooth correctly, which was my avatar for the longest time. But like for one version, I don't know why I was stuck on it for so long. Anyway, it's a system where it's focused on having very accurate lighting for a specifically like a quad, like a flat rectangle with a texture on it, and it's super accurate for that. And it's kind of like the polar opposite of my system, which is very like approximate and lots of tiny little things. This is one extremely accurate and detailed big thing that they light up, or a few. I think you can have like I don't know how many. You can have multiple. Sadly, trying to sell a lighting system means that looking at other people's lighting systems back-end technicals without very explicit permission would be a little uncouth, so I don't. And I don't know a lot about the interior, but it is a lighting system, and it's focused on flat screens and flat lights that are extremely accurate, and it's very pretty. And they have integrations for all the different avatars because the math for it is really weird. You like reproject the quad onto a weird sphere and then use that. It's weird. It's cool. Linear cosine transforms. If you want to read a technical paper, whoever one person in the audience who actually wants to do that, go for it. Have fun. Good system though. Very good system. If you want a world with like just a video player, nothing fancy, but really nice lighting, yeah, CGI is good and open, and I love open source, but also don't want to put open source in my paid projects because I will feel bad unless it's licensed properly. I can't remember their licenses. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, good lighting system. Very good.
Cool. All right, so from there, I think we've covered a lot of bases. We got to see a little demonstration and covered a good bit of information about Moonpool and the details about that. So I think I'm pretty satisfied about that. Is there anything that you wanted to say about Moonpool that perhaps I didn't bring up? If we covered everything, that's okay. No need to force it.
I just want to explicitly give permission to any cool people to go throw pop-ups there because I made the space public because I wanted people to mess with it. I make the video player accessible to the instance owner because I want people to like run things there. And so if I've seen people sometimes messing around with it, but they're sitting there with like 2 friends and making beautiful things, but just for those 2 friends. Go show more of your friends. They all want to see your cool art. Go make cool art. Feel free. Go do the thing and make beautiful things. And I will cry if you send me pictures of it and they're pretty. So please feel free and go do the thing. Yeah, I think that's it. Besides, also there's a new version. So null seasons, specifically like Moonpool null seasons. Null presents Moonpool seasons. That one is now a legacy version that will always try its best to recreate the original Raindance experience, but the Moonpool, just Moonpool, is now the most up-to-date version that has new features in it. So that's how that's working now. I don't want to break the null seasons just because I want to keep iterating on the map. So there's 2 maps now, and the one that isn't Moonpool seasons is the more up-to-date one.
All right, cool. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into a segment that I like to do with all of my guests, essentially talking about their love life, because Sweet Talking Podcast, we talk a little bit about that sort of thing here too. I think it paints a good picture of people's personalities and values. I think it's very, very interesting to get people's mindsets and viewpoints on, relationships, platonic and romantic, and how they feel about them, how they perceive them. So I suppose I'll just start with the basic question. Are you single?
I very recently became single, yes. A mutual breakup with someone who I'm very happy is a extremely mature adult who I can actually still be friends with. A lot of people say they're breaking up and they're still friends, I swear, but then they riffs. But this one's actually been really nice and communicative and really sweet and actually still friends and working on things, which has been nice. But yeah, I recently recently split, and by recently I mean a month ago now.
Okay. And with regards to your relationships, what are some things that are important to you with regards to looking for a particular partner? What values does that person need to have for you to I perceive some manner of potential, I guess?
Dealing with my shit, I guess. This is something that last part. I'm gonna say some things. Last partner, you did these things as well. But giving me space to work on my weird shit, giving me space to, it's a hard, because I'm gonna spend these little stints doing 16-hour days of coding and kind of have the world disappear on me, and that's just kind of the ADHD vibe. But that's difficult. I know it's difficult because I've been on the other side of it, and it's difficult. But it's I don't think there's ever going to be a person who will be more important to me than the stuff I make and the stuff I do. So being okay with that, and the maturity is very important. Open communication actually is probably the biggest thing, though, out of all of the other things. It's can I talk to this person? Am I afraid to ask this person? Am I afraid to set a boundary with this person? If yes, the hard no. Because I should be able to say, oh, hey, I don't like this thing. And then that should be a thing that is done now and gone. And, until I bring it up again. And this, yeah. Important, very important to be able to communicate well and to, really trust that the other person will understand what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Okay.
And that they're hot and will step on me. Important as well.
Fair. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very important things. Yeah. True. The obviously there has to be some sort of attractiveness with that individual, for sure. I agree. For For sure.
Yeah, of course. But, yeah.
Yeah. So does since we are in VR chat right now, does like I guess how close does the personality have to be? I guess how important is personality to their overall their ability to appeal to you like personally, like IRL. Like how important are those things? Like attractiveness, personality, I guess. Like how important are those things to you? Especially like when you're meeting somebody in VR chat.
If it's in VR chat, it's going to be personality number one every time. But also, it's a very rare exception for me to want to date someone who's in VR chat. Because God, I am such a horny little bitch who wants to be touched, and long distance drives me fucking crazy in ways that it's like not the other person's fault at all. It's just bad circumstance. But God, yeah. So I don't think. Maybe some. That'd have to be a very special person for me to be willing to, like, willing to not be touched for long periods of time. But also, like, personality. That just makes the personality like so important. Because like, if I don't have them coming over and pinning me against the wall, I have the vibe. And if the vibe is really good, then that's fine. But the vibe has to be really good to give up being pinned to the wall. Yeah. I've been on a single arc the past month, and like mostly just dealing with like mostly just trying to deal with like, oh, these are validations that I was getting from this person that I really should be getting from internal. Like, there's a hole in my heart right now that should not be there at all and was being filled by this person, and I need to be able to fill that myself before I let someone else in, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Makes sense, yeah.
I need to love me before I let more people love me.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I think there are a number of people who tend to believe this idea that like, oh, society tells me that I need to be with somebody, or like, they haven't even learned what it means to love themselves before they even involve someone else in their own shit. It's not something that they've really kind of come to understand for themselves. So I was going to ask like how important, I guess, is loving yourself to like avoid these voids from occurring in one's heart, because I think it's very important to have that kind of self-understanding, because like you said, like you're not going to love anything more than the stuff that you create, but I think in the same right, no one should love you more than you. So like that's my belief personally. And I think that's why I seem very intimidating to some people, because I know that no one's going to love me more than me. So, I don't really require that sort of thing myself, but it would be nice to have. But, I guess how important is that to you, and or like what have you come to understand due to your past relationship?
Well, this is something that with all things brain-wise, there is the ideal platonic, the platonic ideal of doing the correct thing, and then there's the thing you're gonna actually end up doing. I would love to love myself. I fucking hate myself instead. I would love to like be super proud of everything I do, but I actually think it's all really jank and I don't really see it. But I'm trying to see it. And that's something I'm still working on.
The creative struggle.
But it's hard.
I
Everything I've made except for the last 3 months is dog shit, and no one should like it. Stop complimenting it, you're wrong. No, but actually, it's, yeah, the feeling's always there, but it's fine, because I've honestly, my last relationship really helped that, actually. It was very encouraging they were very encouraging with what I was working on, and like giving me space to really like disappear and work on things, like to their own detriment. I would feel bad sometimes, 'cause I'm like, you sweet little thing, you need more attention than what I can give you right now, and I don't know how to handle that, honestly. It's difficult, and yeah. Lots of feelings there that I'm still working through, but I am not working through them by rebounding, which is something that I have fallen into in the past. I am doing my best to keep everyone at a distance until I've done dealing with myself. Something I'm still working on. We'll get there.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I'm proud of my work, and
yeah.
the most self-love I have is saying that I'm proud of my work. And then I'm starting to look kind of hot. So those two things are the big the big things I've been working on, and that's why I'm going to therapy still, because I need to still keep working on them. And as much as my projects are all a work in progress, so am I. And I'll probably be the most important project I work on.
Yeah. Like honestly, that's way better than I think a lot of other people. Again, there's this strong societal pressure to always be with somebody because there are so many people who are uncomfortable being by themselves. And not really learn. You're saying,
yeah. No, the whole is the lack of external validation that I am like so desperately craving, but really need to stop trying to get, because if I get the validation from other people, if I am constantly asking someone, is this okay? Am I doing okay? Am I doing the right thing? Am I standing right? So fucking, it's embarrassing. Like, I'm looking back on, like, things I've said in the past month, and I'm like, God, this dumb bitch. Why are you like this? What are you doing? But yeah. If you're getting it from someone else, you're not getting it from yourself, and you're not developing that, like, I think you have to actively develop an appreciation for yourself and the things you do, and it's something that I'm still getting through. But that's what the therapy's for. And again, platonic ideal versus actual action, I am still going to be struggling with this for a long time. But I know what I need to do, which is definitely a good first step.
Absolutely, yeah. So what's one thing that you're like, that you got unlock about yourself? What's one thing that you really do like about yourself, love about yourself?
Big thing, or first thing come to mind, I'm as much as I meme on my code, I am good at coding. I'm very fast at prototyping stuff. Brain chugs pretty quickly, and comes up with fun little creative ways of problem solving, which is very fun. I think I'm funny. That's a fun one. It's fun for flirting. When you can make the other person laugh a bunch, even if the jokes are fucking terrible, which they usually are, it's a good time. And I love my hair. It's a cute color. In real life, it's like it's brunette with these little red undertones. It's very pretty in the light, and yeah, so there's things.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah. And I think it's always important to kind of have that idea of like, what do you like about yourself? Like, what's one thing that you enjoy about yourself? So, yeah, that's awesome. Good to hear.
Also voice stuff. I've spent so much goddamn time doing voice training, and paid off really well. I'm big happy.
Hell yeah.
Big one, big happy one.
Yeah. I mean, that's something to be proud of. Like you are capable of being proud of yourself. That's good. That's good to see, and you naturally like exuded that. So that's good.
Don't worry, I still feel like bragging. I'm just holding that down. I'm pushing down the feeling of apologizing for bragging in a fucking interview with my name on it. Yeah, it's there. I promise it's there. I'm just not letting it take over, which is the big thing.
Very good. Yeah, you're right. This is an interview about you, so yeah, it's good. It's okay to toot your own horn. Yeah.
Am I talking too much though? Am I talking too much
please.
in the interview
No.
about me?
No.
Another one. Right.
No.
It's so dumb, and I know it's dumb, and it doesn't stop me from feeling it. It was just a struggle.
Hey, it's all right. It's okay. You've been doing fine. You've been doing great. So, like, what is one major like I think you did mention something like this before, but what is one like absolute like red flag for you? Or even like multiple red flags. Or just like, yeah, that's gonna be like a no for me about like a person. Like in general. It could be like platonic or romantic for you.
Okay, when someone shit talks one of my friends to me, that's the biggest red flag of my life. And a big part of that is because my worst relationship, she would do that fucking constantly and would like really drive wedges between our friend groups. And it's just like, God, why? Why are we doing this? What's happening right now? Or why are we being mean to people behind their backs when for no goddamn reason? That's a huge one. Obvious ones like the rude to wait staff. They're not based. They are very, very
Impulsive.
being trans. A lot of people treat like a lot of people treat sleeping with someone as like a checklist item. That's happened a few times. So hard no on that one. Trying to think of any others. There's a few fun ones, but honestly, just like the boundaries thing is the big one. Honestly, if setting a boundary isn't just met with an immediate like, oh, yeah, it's fair, or like could you please explain this for the explicit purpose of me respecting it, and not because yeah. If you can't set a boundary with someone, you should not be dating them. Hard line right there.
All right. Okay. So, a couple more questions I have for you. So, where would you like to be in 2 years?
Gayer and
more than 80%.
Money. Yeah. Rookie numbers higher. 82. Keep talking. 84. Well, no, but actually, I'm currently living with family after the whole like ward rehab falling apart thing, and God, I've wanted to like be able to fund moving out for a while, but God, is the rent prices going crazy. So moving, restarting my life again, finding my own place again. Honestly, I felt like I've been in a 3-year slump of constantly hitting roadblocks to restart my life, because like it all stems from the fucking cars. There's the reason I brought it up, because I'm mad about it. This place is not designed for people who don't have cars, and my car has been totaled for like 3 years. And the big reason I'm pushing the AGI release, and I'm gonna try and do it sooner, is just so I can buy a new car. Because by new, I mean like the shittiest used beater that will last more than 3 years that I can find. But God, I need to be able to drive and go places and do things.
So moving out.
Yeah, just getting my life back on track.
Okay.
Big thing. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. What has been like who? Yes, I know you said you're predominantly gay. So what like your best relation? Well, I guess you said we've been with more guys than girls. Yeah.
I'm actually pretty even split. But romantically, it's usually women. Although I've also been with quite a few non-binary people, including my last partner. So they're gonna end up right in the middle for those statistics. But sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no.
I just realized that was the first half of the thing.
Oh,
or
yeah.
You just want to know how gay I was?
No. No,
that's like yearning, like 90% actually like acting on it. Dudes are horny. We're at like 50-50. We're here. Girls are scary. I've been doing a lot. Recently very gay, but generally pretty 50-50.
Okay.
Like girls, I've been like Guys.
Okay. You know, why not both? Why not both? But yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the same time, in growth.
Hey,
God bless.
that would
Yeah,
be that would be
back.
something. That would be something. Damn.
Hey, that was the club I was alluding to way from the before time, the non-drinking ones. Those were those.
Gotcha. Okay.
Good times. Good times.
So
Those have kind of died out, honestly. Like those are less prevalent now.
So like you I guess what would you prefer? Like do you prefer like I guess when it comes to having a meaningful connection with someone, what I guess what type have you preferred more? I guess what type of person?
Like an actual connection and not just like horny.
Yeah.
Probably honestly women, but it depends. I've had some very wonderful connections with dudes, but like, God, women. Recently, actually, it's been a lot of trans women, and I think it's just because I connect with them really well, and they really understand the gender struggles. Like, it's difficult. It's a trip. But yeah, usually women. I like women. But also, women are scary in a hot way, and so it's kind of hard to talk to them sometimes. God, yeah. It just depends. I think it's more about the person for me than like gender stuff. Although I do like titty, so you know.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you weren't scared away from being on my podcast. I appreciate that. Okay.
I did my best. I did do some coping skills from therapy because I was like genuinely not in like actually a little like nice, but also like just. I know my friends are gonna be watching. I know if I say something too dumb, they're gonna secretly judge me, you motherfuckers, or openly judge me, you other motherfuckers. But this one's, yeah. I really appreciate the opportunity to yap for hours because it's so fun.
Of course, yeah.
I had to get rolling. I did do therapy things. I had to like do the breathing exercise thing because I was panicking a little bit, but it was good. And we got through. Got through.
Hell yeah. Which I'm glad. I do my best to make my guests feel very, very comfortable, and I hope that I did that for you. Cool. I'm glad to hear that. So, last question for you. Well, almost last question. If you could give any sort of advice for anyone who may be listening, it could be about anything. It doesn't have to be about anything we talked about. It could be about literally anything. What advice would you give to the people who are tuning in?
I've been saying it the whole time. Fucking fail. Go fail. Go do a thing and be bad at it and enjoy the fact that you did the thing anyway. And then keep doing the thing and keep failing because eventually you'll stop failing. And when you stop failing, you will be very, very happy that you failed all those times before. That's the big thing. And also drink your damn water. Hydrate, motherfuckers. Drink your water.
All right. So true. And actually, the last question is, where can people find you?
They can find me skeeting all over Blue Sky at, Apple Blossom VR? Or on Discord, Apple_Blossom for your extremely invasive questions. Gib, I enjoy them. Or any of my worlds, Apple_Blossom on VR. Star World's public, Moonpool's public. There's a few, I can't remember if there's other weird ones. Apple MM is also public. Any world that has a video player in there is usually accessible to people if they want to like host events or do things there. Feel free. Actually, Apple MM currently has J-Flow's art on it, and it's the coolest fucking shit. Wholeheartedly recommend. Yeah, that's where they can find me.
All right, cool. And just really quickly, since I ask you and then I share whether I can find me as well. So if you guys would like to find me, if you're watching this right now, hey, you're already watching me on Twitter. Hey, thank you so much for watching. But if you're watching this on Twitter, you can find me on YouTube at Nepherti, with one I. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can find me on Twitch, at Nepherti with 2 I's. You can also find me on Twitter at Nepherti with 2 I's also. If you would like more information about the podcast and things that we have going on, guests that we have coming up, you can follow the podcast Twitter at Sweet Talking Pod. It's very, very easy. And of course, there is my Patreon, patreon.com/Nepherti. If you'd like to support what I'm doing here on YouTube and everywhere else. And of course, you can find my links elsewhere, see what other content that I'm creating. But for the most part, you can find me at those locations. And for those of you who are tuning in right now, we are actually going to be wrapping up the podcast portion, the main podcast portion right now. But there will be some additional content following this, the ending of this portion of the podcast. If you are interested in watching the post questions that I'll have for Apple after this, and past guests that I've had, so you get access to all of the post content from all of my past guests, that is on my Patreon. So if that's interesting to you, you can subscribe for just starting at $1 for all of that, if that's something that is interesting to you. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you so much for tuning in. Apple, thank you so much for being on my podcast tonight. I really do appreciate it very, very much. You've been a pleasure to talk to. Your brain is very, very, it holds so much information, and it's very, very cool to be able to pick your brain. So I'm a big fan of people who have very, very intelligent things to share and teach me things. So I enjoy that a lot. So I enjoy talking with you quite a lot. Thank you.
That's so sweet. Thank you so much. I'm just yapping. I'm just doing my best. Thank you so much for having me. Your questions are very, very good and insightful, and very, you're really sweet.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. I'm glad that I could chat with you this evening, and I hope everyone who tuned in also had a good time listening to what we were talking about. And if you guys resonated with anything, please feel free to leave a comment, a like. If you really enjoyed this podcast, please do like the content. It really does help in the algorithm on YouTube. So I want to thank you all so much. And if you're watching this right now, please feel free to follow me on Twitch. If you're watching this live right now, feel free to follow me there too. I really appreciate that. But I'm so grateful for Apple for coming onto my podcast, being my 52nd guest, and we are going to continue our questions after we wrap up here. But thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate it so much, and I hope to see you all in the next episode. So until then, take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
And catch the Patreon. It's going to be hornier. I'm going to be even hornier. Too horny for TOS.
There you go. There's your motivation right there. Bye, guys.